person is wicked, goes against the Torah, whatever success they're given in this world, it's certainly not a blessing.
It doesn't matter what you say, what you think, what you do, what I say will happen. Because I don't listen to anybody. You quote the scripture to me, I will dismiss it. You wake Buddha up from his grave and bring him, I'll still dismiss him unless he agrees with me. It doesn't matter who. If God comes, I will not listen to him because I know better than him. But what can I do? It's true.
Money that comes in any form of wickedness is never blessed money. It's cursed.
How much money did you pay for Tyler Perry's Gulfstream jet, for example?
Well, for example, that's really none of your business, but…
Isn't it the business of your donors?
Listen, I paid. You kind of caught me off guard here, okay.
You said that you don't like to fly commercial because you don't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons. Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
If I know that all the money that he gives is a way for me to serve him, there's no need for me to cheat. There's no need for me to lie.
Any religious leader who speaks the word of God, who has more than one suit, while someone has no clothes, is a cop-out.
Yeah, you know, Larry, I just don't see it that way.
How much in assets is your company have under management?
$350 billion.
There's no need for me to do anything illegal. There's no need for me to do any type of scandal.
If you were willing to pay the price, you could talk directly to God.
This market is gigantic, beyond comprehension. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars.
One of the things that I've been speaking against over the last several years, that's mamash the Satan himself attacking Am Yisrael with cash advance.
These guys call businesses across the country and they're offering quick money. They say that if you're in a tight spot, they can get you 50, 100 grand overnight.
There's no need for me to take advantage of anybody.
I had these guys selling their houses, life savings, loans, all of it to me. Give me it all.
Real happiness, real fulfillment doesn't exist in that business.
Some new explosive allegations in the Tony Robbins sex scandal. Several more women are accusing the self-help guru of inappropriate behavior.
By putting pictures of yourself on social media, on your WhatsApp, on your TikTok, on your Facebook, and all of these different places, you yourself are minimizing your significance in the world.
The world of deepfakes is very sinister.
A world of digitally altered videos and images that can be made using just one photo of someone's face.
People who spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook. It'll destroy relationships, it'll cost time, and it'll cost money, and it'll make your life worse.
37% of teenage girls between 13 and 15 were exposed to unwanted nudity in a week on Instagram. You knew about it. Who did you fire?
We now know that many of the major social media companies hire individuals called attention engineers who borrow principles from Las Vegas casino gambling, among other places, to try to make these products as addictive as possible.
Dr. Lawrence American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology shows us what happens to your brain when you watch porn using SPECT scanning.
It says what they did was evil in the eyes of Hashem. Being promiscuous and all of the immorality is considered evil in the eyes of Hashem.
Controversial recent ad campaign featured kids
with a bear in a bondage outfit.
Wicked people succeed tremendously with an enormous amount of money. Don't look at the bank account, look at the life. More times than not, that money is a curse on that person.
Nobody ever tells you that, like, when you get to the top, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's just more of that if you want it.
The 666 pair of sneakers feature gold pentagrams, inverted crosses, as well as human blood inside the sole.
Some have dubbed this performance as a satanic worship service on primetime live broadcast television.
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I made a bargain with it a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
With the chief commander.
On this earth?
And this earth, and then in the world we can't see.
Those people, with their false beliefs, go further and further away from God. And in the end, they'll be punished for it.
One of the things that I've been speaking against over the last several years is this wicked business that's mamash the Satan himself attacking Am Yisrael, again, with cash advance. In so many words, lending money with high interest. Everyone knows that a Jew is not allowed to lend another Jew money and charge him interest. Now, of course, if a Jew is a Mechalel Shabbat, his halachic treatment is as if he's a goy, so technically if you did charge him interest, you're allowed to. Ovadia paskins that way, and many other paskin that way, but they don't recommend you doing it anyway, simply because it'll get you used to charging Jews interest. And number two, if he does tshuva, you have a very serious problem. Whether it's the lender, the borrower, the broker, all of them have no Olam Haba. All of them are in very, very serious problems. So you would think, oh, this is clear cut, this is known already throughout all of our history. What's the problem? The problem is that Jews are known for being in the lending business throughout all of history. Even from the time of Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech made a takana, Jews are not allowed to be in the lending business and charge interest. Not Jews and not goyim. Of course, not everybody listened, and throughout all of history we've had many, many problems because of it. So now over the last 20, 30 years, this horrific business of cash advance has picked up its steam and it's caused a lot of trouble, where majority of the most successful companies in that business, in that high interest lending business, are not only Jews, but they're Jews that are religious. They have the shtraimo, they have the hat, they have the rabbinical title, they have the kollel background, they have the yeshiva background, and so on and so forth. You go into an office, you think it's a kollel, but the reality is it's a world apart, and it's an entire industry. It's not one or two companies. We're talking about hundreds of companies. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars, and they're being lent at very, very high interest. The normal bank rates today with low interest rates, 4, 5, 6%. If you have bad credit, let's say 10, 12, credit card, 25%, that's it, finished. Other than that, go to the mafia if you want to pay more. But in so many words, that's where it goes. Cash advance business, if you have a really nice guy and he's not an outright murderer, he's going to charge you 45 to 50%. But if he's a standard normal cash advance person, 80 to 400%. Now, this is Gezel. It's not considered lending. It's considered stealing. Even Eteriska would not work on such a business. We have a history of this. Many of the Chachamim forbid charging interest. Now you're going to tell, yeah, they forbid it for the Jews. No. The prohibition is to not charge goyim interest. It's needless to say, the Torah forbids you from charging Jews interest. But now the lending money with interest to goyim that everybody's talking about, that it is permissible with under those conditions, it's lending with interest. That maximum rate is what's permissible by the government. That's the average rate. Meaning, let's say if it's bank rates, the bank is average, let's say 10%, that's what you're allowed to charge. You're not allowed to charge 15% or 20% or 15%. No, you're not allowed to do that. So needless to say, you're not allowed to charge 50 and 100 and 200%.
Well, if you're a business owner or know someone who is, it's no secret that it takes money to make money.
But how you get it could leave you caught in a trap, especially if you're forced to tap into a shady cash advance company.
Imagine you're running a small business. You borrow some money. You're paying it back. Maybe you've fallen behind. Maybe you haven't.
And then one day, out of the blue, you can't get any of your money out of the bank.
Predatory lending always pops up at the most inopportune moments. It's sickening.
1 in 20 households have taken one out at some point. It's a $9 billion industry.
There are more payday loan stores in America than Starbucks and McDonald's.
Your accounts are locked up. They've been seized without any notice to you.
Every day we were getting our bank account hit, every single day. Well, it got to the point where it was nothing there and it was going negative. I mean, if you charge somebody, 400% interest rate, I mean, that's greed, right?
These guys call businesses across the country and they're offering quick money. They say that they can get you 50, 100 grand overnight. The loans are very expensive, with interest rates as high as 300 or 500% annualized, 20 times as much as you'd pay on a credit card.
Charging sky-high interest rates up to 400% on loans to small companies.
Often it's 300 or 400 percentage points on an annual basis.
Average annual rates of 570%. Some of those rates legally are as high as 1,900% a year.
Freezing bank accounts, filing liens on your homes.
A confession of judgment is something that the borrower signs as a condition of getting the loan. It basically means they give up their right to be heard in court. Even if confessions of judgment go away, there are all kinds of other abusive practices in the cash advance industry. So you're probably going to be hearing more about this industry for years to come.
No one allows that in history. Even if you have the permission from the government, even if you have the permission from your local rabbi, in Shamayim you do not have permission. Why? It's immoral, it's not right, it's a bad product. And you would not want to buy it. If you wouldn't be a customer, don't sell it. If the commissions are really high, usually that's a problem. Nobody likes to pay high commissions for good products. Good products sell themselves. If you see a specific group of people focus and all of a sudden there's new businesses selling the same product popping up like mushrooms everywhere. All of a sudden everybody's in the cash advance business. All of a sudden everybody's in the insurance business, insuring washing machines. Why? It's a scam. Eventually the deen of Shamayim will come upon a person and those people are guaranteed to lose all of their money. You see, if you look at the history of all of those people that had these finagling type of things, eventually they ended up losing everything. Don't be part of that system. Eventually, HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows you who's boss. You see, some people go to jail, some people die early, some people see their kids die, all types of lawsuits, gambling, all types of issues. It's going to be a major massacre of disaster in that industry. You'll see one after another. Every one of them going. Why? Because eventually HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to close the shop. Why? It's happened before. It happened in England 900 years ago. It happened in Germany 70 years ago. It happened many times. And usually those people that are in those corrupt businesses that are taking advantage of some type of industry loophole, either there's no compliance in the industry, there's no regulation in the industry, there's no watchdog in the industry, there's just a lot of stupid people in the industry and all types of things. Usually HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, oh, they may not be watching, but I'm watching. Some of the people that have been the most successful in history weren't criminals like those people. They did business hard way, but the honest way, and they got far. No posek in the world, real posek in the world will allow people to be in the cash advance business, not because they're lending to goyim, but because of what they charge. What they charge makes their business illegal according to the Torah. Anybody. Surely they're not allowed to lend the money to Jews, but they do, because no application is allowed to ask somebody, hey, Steve, are you Jewish? You can't ask, you don't know who you're lending to. You could be lending even to a frum Jew. And then you lost your Olam Haba with that one lend. You lend to 1,000 people. One guy is a Jew, you have no Olam Haba. One guy is a Jew, you lend to 10,000 people. 10,000 people, you're a big tzaddik in the business. Everybody wants to borrow money from you. One guy's a Jew, you go to Gehinnom forever. Only a moron and a Rasha Merusha will permit such a business. Doesn't exist. Who gave you the permission to charge 40%, 50%, 80%? What posek in the world allowed you to charge predatory rates? Go borrow $10,000 with 40% interest. See what happens. You go bankrupt. Now I also brought historical events that happened to the Jewish people when they were in this type of business. It's not the first time. Am Yisrael unfortunately has a history of being in the lending business in such a fashion that we're known as predatory lenders throughout all of history. It's not a new thing because of our lending. One of the reasons why the Nazis, Yimach Shemam v'Zichram, justified murdering and massacring us and so on is because of lending practices we had. Part of which were made up. They obviously imagined in their wicked minds. Part of it was true. Part of the stuff that they blamed us to do was true. We did charge high rates. We did do certain things that were wrong. You can't just say, oh no, it's all fake. It's not all fake. There are certain things that are historical validations. And the reality is, every single time we were in a position of power, it's because there were a few Jews that were lending money to the Goyim, and many times it happened that they charged them high rates, and the Goyim got angry, and they revolted. Why? Nobody wants to pay the high interest. So what do? Instead of paying the interest, they kill you. Simple. It's very easy for a Goy to kill. So all of these people that are building this industry, I've said it in my shurim in the past, and I'll say it again. All of the Jewish people, and you could put this on YouTube, because it's already on there anyway. You could send it to all the rabbis and send them, it's from me with my face. Every single person that's writing people a permission to be in the cash advance business, all these stupid businesses, all the fake stuff that they're doing, every single one of those rabbis will go to Gehinnom and will never come out. They are part of creating the next Holocaust that's coming to America. History shows us what we've done, what transpired, what we're doing, and what's transpiring. Cash advance business rise, anti-Semitism rise. They have themselves a problem with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a problem that is going to be very, very hard to solve. The The Gaon, Rabbi Yechezkel Landa, in his Sefer, Drashot Tzlach, on page 539, he warned about this danger of Jewish people lending money with interest. And he writes as follows: it's forbidden to lend with interest to those nations whom we live in their shadow and treat us favorably. They are people of faith, believers of the blessed Creator, and the Torah of Moshe came from heaven. Anyone who takes interest from the nations in our times, more than the norm in the markets of that country, is committing two evils. One, the very fact of taking interest payments itself is evil, and furthermore, he is in the category of a rodef, who is among those who put the Jewish people in danger by giving us a bad image in the eyes of the nations. It is appropriate for us to follow the attributes of the Holy One, blessed be He, who desires kindness. But as a result of our many sins, continues Rav Landau, the wicked people act the opposite of this instruction. As Shlomo HaMelech says in Proverbs 12:10, the mercy of the wicked is cruelty. We can clearly see that those people who lend money with interest initially seem to be an act of compassion and lending money to the poor in his time of distress. However, in the end, we see that this is an evil and cruel dispensation. This lender increases the interest and makes things tougher on the borrowers with biting interest. Eventually, the poor man simply cannot bear it, and the lender comes to take away all the poor man's property as part of his interest obligations. Similarly, brings Rav Ephraim in his Sefer, Rav Michael HaKohen Baruch narrates in his book called Zichron Avu Bno, page 334 and 335, his own memories of his life when he lived in Ukraine in a place called Colombia. And he tells of how there were certain Jewish personalities who took high interest, even more than the value of the principal amount, meaning over 100% interest, and they caused a lot of animosity towards the Jews by the non-Jews. 100% in cash advance is cheap because some of them are charging 600-700% and even some as high as 4,000%. But here he's talking about how this interest of 100% caused anti-Semitism in Ukraine. If that was enough, this would be sufficient. But there's more. An historian by the name of Eliezer Bashan came to the conclusion in his book that there was a certain degree of justification to the hatred that the locals had towards the Jewish population in Fez, Morocco. This was due to those Jews who were on one hand enjoying the hospitality of the foreign nation, but yet on the other hand, they were lending them money with high interest. Even the Rabbi of Fez of Morocco at the time from 1873 to 1900 also agreed and joined in holding these Jews at fault. Meaning this is not just a lone historian that is agreeing with the Gentile perspective. No, the Rabbi of Morocco agreed that these wicked Jews are causing anti-Semitism. So whether it's Morocco or it's Ukraine or it's Poland or it's Germany or it's anywhere in history, you saw Jews lend money with interest, it creates anti-Semitism. One of the businesses that many people are going to today is this rotten business. The Satan pays cash, and a lot of it, people think that they're going to do good, and therefore they'll be able to give tzedakah. I can assure you, not a single dollar that you donate from that business is considered tzedakah. It's all considered stolen. Every single person in that business, even if you're a clerk, even if you do the paperwork, if you're a lawyer, if you're an accountant for them, if you're a secretary, needless to say, if you're a broker, a principal, compliance officer, and an owner, every single one of those people is bringing anti-Semitism to the world. Every single one of them is increasing the power of Amalek, and some of them are even part of Amalek. And worse of it all, any rabbi that takes money from those people, knowing that this is where they get their money from, without saying anything, without stopping it, without at least rebuking the guy and trying to get him to do tshuva, you are a partner to the crime. Why? By you taking money from these criminals, you're in essence enabling them to continue doing evil. If you are in a horrible, spiritually deformed business, whether it's the cash advance business or any other business, if you're cheating your customers, if you are cheating anybody, if you're stealing, if you're being dishonest, if you're a dishonest doctor, if you're a dishonest lawyer, you're dishonest in anything, you are empowering Amalek. You are bringing a Holocaust to the Jewish people. Don't blame the non-Jews for being evil. They're simply being used as a tool by Hashem to get us to do tshuva. Why does Hashem use them? Because of people like you, that steal from them, that empower them. This doesn't justify their sins, doesn't allow them to cause us any harm. But it's important for the Jewish people to know this is not a new thing. Anti-Semitism being on the rise is not a new thing.
Dozens of arrests made overnight at NYU as pro-Palestinian and anti-Israel protests turned violent.
More than 50% of Americans have already admitted that they hate the Jewish people. Who knows about the other 50% that hasn't admitted yet? That means there's between 175 to 200 million people in America alone that hate Jews. Needless to say, the people around the world, they have all the reasons in the world to not hate us, but you're giving them a reason to hate us. We've invented amazing things. We've brought amazing things to the world, whether it be technology, medicine, all types of innovation, all types of things, most importantly, religion. But you, with your rotten greed, are giving the non-Jews a reason to hate the Jews. No, it's not because of the religious Jews like me that the non-Jews hate us. In fact, even anti-Semites like us. In fact, even anti-Semites write comments under my videos and say, you know what, you make me respect the real Jews. Now I know there's a difference. And guess what? Just because someone is religious doesn't mean they're a real Jew. And just because someone's not religious doesn't mean they're a fake Jew. Don't tell me Mashiach. Mashiach's not going to help people like Mashiach will destroy people that empowered Amalek. Many of our communities don't speak about stuff like this because there's money involved, because there's reputations involved, because of all types of flawed reasons. We have to understand this distance that the people have from Judaism today is not because they know so much about Judaism and they decide they don't like it, but quite the opposite. Because the average person, the average Jew, is not given a real Jewish education, even if they sometimes go to yeshiva. They smell, the kids of this generation smell the dishonesty in the air. They ask rabbis basic questions about reward and punishment. They can't get a legit answer. They ask different people about different types of things. They can't get a normal answer. We are all at fault here. Instead of crying about a building that was destroyed 2,000 years ago, perhaps we should start crying until we change today, until we fix our behaviors today. Now, while everybody has an excuse of why they're not so ready to be a Talmid Chacham and study Torah all day, fine. Can you at least keep the basics of Mitzvot? And you know what? We'll make it even easier. Can you at the very least be honest in your business? Be honest in your ethics? Be honest with your morality? Stop chasing all types of things that are forbidden, all types of things that don't belong to you. If there's an ounce of decency in any one of us, we have to start seeing what the truth is instead of defining it. This is the truth. This is where I go. Whether it's Morocco, or it's Ukraine, or it's Poland, or it's Germany, or it's anywhere in history, you saw Jews lend money with interest. It creates anti-Semitism. At the time of the Holocaust, many people were in a similar situation like we are today. Anyone that studies the Holocaust a little bit will see that it's almost identical. With the exception of iPhones and iPods, everything else was the same. Intermarriage before the Holocaust in certain parts of the world, especially Germany, was over 80%. Intermarriage in America, which is the modern day Germany, is over 80%. That means that 8 out of every 10 Jews in America, we have 6 million Jews in America, give or take, 8 out of every 10 are marrying non-Jews. Hashem Yirachem. Now that means if things continue, they continue marrying Goyim. We are one generation away from simply not having Jews. Hashem Yishmo. When someone asks you, where was God during the Holocaust? The honest Torah answer is, He did it. That's the answer. How do we know He did it? He said He's going to do it. He said in Parashat Kitisa. He said in Parashat Kitavo. He said in Parashat Azinu. He said in Parashat Bechukotai. If we don't do certain things, He'll punish us. But specifically, things like intermarriage, Chilul Shabbat, things of that nature, He says the punishment very, very heavy. To such an extent that He gives you details of what happens if we don't take Him seriously. He says, treat me with casualness. You don't care about what I say, I'm going to treat you with casualness. When the Goyim start anti-Semitism for no reason, one day, a bunch of people decide to start killing Jews for no reason. This was a warning shot. Kadosh Baruch Hu is talking to us very carefully. He's trying to get our attention because He doesn't want to bring another Holocaust. But the Holocaust happened because we didn't take it seriously. So Kadosh Baruch Hu says, listen, if I let you continue acting like Goyim, continue violating Shabbat, continue the intermarriage, continue dishonesty, continue charging people interest that's absurd, like what's happening in the merchant cash advance business today, Hashem Yishmo. People are just completely robbing people blind, thinking it's permitted because it's Goyim. Oh no, I'm only charging him 50%, Rabbi, only 50%. I'm like, oh, so you're only taking
fucking half of his life, not the whole thing. No, but Rabbi, he's a goy. I said, it's worse if he's a goy. No, I thought, Rabbi, that you're allowed to charge goyim interest. I said, who told you? Doesn't it say it somewhere in a book? I said, you're relying, your whole Olam Haba is relying on something you never saw in a book. You have a whole business, every day you're lending people money because somebody told you you're allowed to do it. Now you know, if you're wrong, doesn't matter if you keep Shabbat. Doesn't matter if you do everything else right. If you're wrong about this one thing, you have no Olam Haba, you're finished. You go up to Shammai and say, okay, yeah, you go to the hot place. Why? But I kept Shabbat. Yeah, we'll shut off the fire on Shabbat. If a person makes a mistake because he didn't study, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't count it as a mistake. Counts it as if he did it on purpose. You can't go up to Shamayim and say, Hashem's gave you 70, 80, 90 years, say, I didn't know. Because for your business, you studied for 20 years. For your law degree, you studied for 20 years. So how come you didn't learn how to be a Jew? In a Torah, Rabotai, anytime you have a Shiur Torah, the rabbi is supposed to provide you sources, what book it's from, where is it from, why? Shows us, this comes, what he just said, comes from Mount Sinai, not his opinion. Now when it comes to lending, a person needs to know that even lending money to goyim with charging interest is not so pashut, it's not so simple, meaning you cannot just charge them whatever you want, and you cannot even charge them interest just because of that. And a lot of people don't know this, and they just assume they can do whatever they want, and they don't realize that it's actually what they're doing is a worse sin than lending to Jews with interest. If you cheat a Jew, that Jew is going to say, you're a bad guy, you're a bad girl, I don't like you. Why? You cheated me. Now if you cheat a non-Jew, what does the non-Jew say? All Jews are bad. It's not just you anymore. Everybody's bad. And that's called Chilul Hashem. Desecrated Hashem's name. So when we do something bad to goyim, it's much, much worse than doing something bad to Jews. That doesn't mean we should do something bad to Jews. But the point being here is that we have an entire industry that's been built over the last 15, 20 years called merchant cash advance that's predominantly led by Jewish people. Many of them pretend to be religious. They are doing the same thing that we did in almost every generation that had a disaster. If anyone ever read Mein Kampf from Hitler, Hitler tells the world why he hates Jews. He says the Jews created communism. The Jews of that time were communists. They hated religion, they hated Torah, they hated God. So they created something called communism. Hitler thought of himself as a God belief, thought of himself as someone religious, even though he murdered millions of people. He justified it based on his demented ideology. That's what Christianity has been doing for 2,000 years. But the point is, one of the reasons why he hated Jews was because they were anti-God. But another reason that he sold to the people, that he said, you hate Jews also, even if you don't care if they're religious or not. Because Jews are taking advantage of you. People said, how? Jews are the ones that are in control of all of the banks that are lending you with high interest. And everybody said yes.
Meine Arbeit für richtig hältst. Ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich gearbeitet habe, dass ich mich in diesen Jahren für dich eingesetzt habe, dass ich anständig meine Zeit verwendet habe im Dienste meines Volkes. Gib du jetzt deine Stimme ab. Wenn ja, dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
Why? Because it was true. The Jews destroyed the economy in Germany by simply lending money with high interest. People that cannot meet this demand, the business is not growing as high as they thought it was going to grow, ended up closing down shop and saying, listen, I'm defaulting and declare bankruptcy, I have to start all over. Oh, it was the Jewish guy. When Hitler says, yeah, all of the lending is from the Jews, everybody joined him. Overnight, a loser named Hitler that never had anything significant of meaning became a world leader that's very powerful. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you didn't listen to the warnings, now here's the message. 500 years before that in Spain, the same thing happened. 900 years in England, it happened. 1186, the Jewish people were doing really well financially. Primary business, lending money, ignoring the Torah rules. One day, the leader of the place goes on vacation. They're going to decide to start mass murdering Jewish people in the streets. Why? We're tired of paying you interest. This, Rabotai Karim, is repeating the same story over and over again. This is why Shlomo HaMelech 3,000 years ago says it's not allowed to lend people money with interest even if they're not Jewish. Where is this leniency to lend non-Jews money with interest comes from? It comes from the Gemara, it comes from a few Chachamim that say it's only allowed if the person is a Talmid Chacham, meaning he studies Torah all day, so he doesn't have time to go work on Wall Street or work on Diamond District or work construction, because he learns Torah all day, but he needs to make a living. So he has a little bit of money his parents gave him or some people gave him. He can lend it to some goy, charge him just enough money to make a living. He needs $2,000, $3,000 a month. That's all he's allowed to make.
Meaning you're not allowed to become wealthy off of this money, which is the opposite of what's happening. This is an industry that has grown so big that in just the last 5 or 6 years, there's been at least half a dozen companies that have become public company, billion-dollar company, from simply doing a business that's destroying the economy. And if that's not bad enough, just to show you how bad it is, everyone knows the mafia, their primary business was lending money for years, for all of generations. That's what the Italians did, that's what they did. You didn't have money from the bank, nobody was able to lend you. You go to the Tony from the mafia, he says, how much do you want? I want 100,000. Okay, 100,000, 30 points a week. Pretty much by the time you paid him back the loan, you gave him also 2 lungs too. Or he took him out of you. One way or the other, he's getting his money back. This business of merchant cash advance business is so horrible, the mafia shut down. They don't lend money in the streets anymore. You know how they lend money? They also open merchant cash advance. Why? There's more money there, legally. If the mafia is your co-worker, that already gives you enough of an understanding it's not a good business. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us warning signs. When we don't follow them, problems happen. Think that the yetzer has changed. He hasn't changed. He just modernized himself. The yetzer is very modern. He's so modern, he's more modern than you. He knows about the fashion that's going to come out before you do. Why? He's responsible to bring that stumbling block in front of us. And a person that thinks that they're going to be able to use this excuse in Shemaim should also read another thing that Shlomo HaMelech said, where he says in Mishle, in Proverbs, chapter 19, verse 21, and you read it in your prayer in your Siddur, Rabot machshavot belev ish, ve'etzat Adonai hi takum. Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest of all men, says, many designs, meaning many ideas, are in a man's heart, but the counsel of HaShem, only it will prevail. A person can have all types of ideas. He can have an idea, no, I'm going to do this business, I'm going to be a billionaire. Okay, it's good you have confidence. It means zero. Very good. You need to have confidence before you do something. But as far as whether that's going to lead to a certain outcome, absolutely not. Unless that confidence is in HaShem. If that confidence is in HaShem, that could actually change the outcome. Why? Because having confidence in HaShem by itself gives HaShem a reason to give you what you want. If what you want is good. As far as to just have confidence, I'm going to start this business and therefore I'll make money, doesn't mean anything. It means something in fairy tale land. You know, all these gurus of today, there's like a new guru every day today. It used to be just Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, and a few other guys that said the same exact idea in different words. Now every Joe Schmo is a guru, has a YouTube channel, and he sells you a course that says absolutely nothing for $2,500. What did he tell you? You have to work hard.
I'm only looking for people who are dedicated to this, who are going to be focused on this. This is for people who are willing to put in work. This is for real people who are willing to put in real work.
You have to believe in yourself. You have to listen to all my videos and buy the books that say the same exact thing as everybody else before me.
And it's all revealed right here in this book. I'm gonna give you this for free.
You're giving away your free book. You're just trying to sell me stuff. Of course I am. I have no shame. I have no guilt. I have no hesitation.
Every day there's a new guru. Some of them never made money working $15 an hour. First job, being a guru. I'm going to teach you how to be a millionaire. How? Do what I do. Tell people how to be a millionaire. The guy never made $1. People are buying it. They start these courses. They drag you on for an hour and a half. By the time you listen to this Joe, you already feel committed. Oh, because he gave me a free seminar. All my secrets I'm going to unveil to you.
This is the blueprint to becoming a millionaire, and I'm going to walk you through the levels to becoming one.
An hour and a half later, he hasn't said anything. He told you his sob story of how he used to be homeless before he fooled people like you.
I was a very insecure kid. I was slightly pudgy, and now I'm on the Australian Financial Rich List under Margot Robbie.
Felt like a jail cell. I felt my life literally being sucked out of me minute by minute.
And believe me, there was other failures in between, times when I didn't sleep for months on end.
And I got beat up quite a few times.
He was tired of day-to-day job and the grind, and now he figured out how to do it, and now I'm going to tell you, but before I tell you, let me tell you what else I went through. An hour and a half later, I go, okay, tell me something. Oh, you want me to tell you the real secret? Subscribe here. $26.99. Not $26.99. $2,699. And guess what? They're selling it by the dozens.
I'll never forget, these guys paid $12,000 each to sit in that chair.
3 days I gotta look at their ugly faces.
Gives you the course. Guess what? He still tells you nothing.
I spent over $50,000 on so-called fake gurus, the ones that pop up on every YouTube ad and then get exposed. I'm going to give you the biggest learnings I've taken away from spending all this money so you don't have to. Here's how I spent my money. I went to a few Tony Robbins events, bought Sam Altman's courses, got a couple of business coaches, and countless of other small purchases. While lots of it was great, so much of it is complete garbage. And because I had already built $1 million business using free advice from the internet before buying anything, I was experienced enough to understand some really shocking things that the newbies didn't.
He tells you the stuff you could get for free on the internet, but then you feel like I'm already invested into this thing. I'm committed to it. So when the guy starts selling you all of this emails, you have to come, you have to listen, you have to do this, you watch the YouTube, you watch all these private videos and all this nonsense. He tells you, oh, there's a special seminar only for my select students, only select ones. And it happens to be that my select ones could afford to pay me $5,000. But they're select though, they're select. And then people buy into that. And then they go to a bunch of places, and they're surrounded by a bunch of other morons that fell into this system. And every single person paid $5,000. So what do? They all jive up each other, they all gas up each other. Yeah, you bought into it. Yeah, it's real. Yeah. And no one knows what's going on though. They're all special. $5,000. 5,000 people show up. The guy makes $20 million for doing nothing.
If you're a millionaire, why sell a course?
I need to treat money like it's sacred.
But guess what, guys? The next seminar is going to be even better than this one. People buy into it and buy into it. And today, one of these commercials that you have on YouTube, this kid, honestly, if he still wears a diaper, I wouldn't be surprised. But he's a guru. He didn't look a day older than 16. But he's telling people how to be rich. And there's countless people like this. Countless.
I've made over $500,000 at 15 years old in just the last 6 months. And it wasn't through getting this. I simply just used Snapchat.
I just made $5,000 this morning with a stock trading strategy that I want to explain in this video.
In this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact steps that you need to take to make money selling online courses. I'm literally going to share my entire blueprint with you that's allowed me to make over $1 million in the past year, so make sure you tune in and pay attention.
It is really stupid.
Why? Because people are not searching for the truth. What are they searching for? Quick way out of my problem. This also has to do with the Mashiach ideology that people have, where they want Mashiach now, without actually knowing any of the laws and the actual reality that has to do with Mashiach. Where it actually says Mashiach comes, is going to be Gog and Magog. It's going to be war. Lots of people are going to die. You're going to know some of them. It's not going to be a fun time. If Rabbi Eliezer ben Holkinos and all of the sages that discussed Mashiach said they were scared to live at the time of Mashiach, but you're saying Mashiach now, it's a little bit of a problem, right? They knew more than you and they were scared. How come you're not scared? So that's the thing. People think that Mashiach is like the Social Security office. It's going to give you some money. Oh yeah, they fired me, poor me, they fired me. Okay, no, what do you want from us? I want you to give me a check every 2 weeks. Oh, okay, no problem. Fill out over here. It's not our money, and we'll give it to you. No problem. Here you go. $500 a week, $1,000 a week. No problem. People think that's Mashiach. What happened to you? Oh, I made all these sins. Oh, you made all these sins? Okay, what do you want to check? How much you want me to pay for this? Okay, so here you go, check. Here you go. Give it to God. Well, give this check to God. He'll pay for all your sins. That's what the thing Mashiach is. Mashiach is going to pay for their sins. That's Christianity. So it's very, very important for a person to know, as much as we make this issue humorous a little bit, to lighten up the topic, but the reality is, it's a horrible mentality. The stupidity of man will cause a person to sin, and then they get upset at HaShem for punishing them. A person that does business sees that their business is doing well, sees that they're succeeding. Be even more careful after success than you are when you first started. There are many people that have made a fortune off of all types of stupid things in the last several years, whether it be these bitcoins and their cryptocurrency.
Look, I'm sure you've heard about it.
Bitcoins. Meantime, another 52-week high for Bitcoin.
Or it's YouTube, and all of a sudden these 15-year-old gamers, influencers, and they have millions of followers, and these followers are actually giving them money, and these people are literally making millions of dollars off of nothing.
Today I'm here at one of the largest gaming tournaments in the world to find the top players and ask them how much money they earn. So how much are you bringing in full time?
Over the past 3 or 4 months, I made about $30K.
How old are you right now?
17.
How much did you bring in last year from playing Fortnite full time?
Probably $100K.
It's over 6 figures. 6 figs.
Probably 20, 30K a month.
Almost about 500,000. In US?
Yeah.
I'd say a little over 6 figures. I'm 24 now.
About 700K.
Around 600, 700K earnings.
Over $1 million.
40,000?
Wow.
It's 245,000.
I think I need $1 million
once.
Wow.
Yeah, that was very nice.
We raised 1.4 mil for Feeding America, and that was super rewarding.
480K off of AdSense.
Last month, my channel brought in around this much.
I'll just say our biggest month in earnings is still ahead of us, but it allows us to support, about 200,000 square feet of Burbank studio space, which is not cheap. We've got about 125 employees. We've got multiple brands that we're launching.
Listen, God wants to give it to them. What's the problem? The problem is that the Gemara in Masechet Sukkah says, person that loves money will never have enough money.
How much in assets is your company have under management?
$350 billion.
Wow. You've achieved what most people would consider the dream life. Billions of dollars, you have houses around the world, you have a family. What's left? Is there anything that you feel like is missing in your life?
No, sure, I still want to succeed better than I am so far.
If you didn't have ethics before you got money, certainly you're not going to have it after you got money. And in fact, it will deteriorate. And what ends up happening is that these people get blessed with a fortune. This 20-year-old, 25-year-old, 35-year-old, 40-year-old all of a sudden sees a huge fortune of money coming their way, whether they're selling masks for coronavirus, or they're selling video games, or they're simply making people watch them play video games. Whatever nonsense that people do, God decides to bless them. And what ends up happening is, it's not enough for them. Now that they have a following, now that they have an audience, they want to do something big. They want to join the Forbes 500, but it's not enough for them to continue growing in a reasonable fashion. No, they want to do something big. So what do? They get into some type of scam.
We were taking their money, all of it. You gotta lie to him. Make him think that if he's serious about you, that nothing else matters. I had these guys selling their houses, life savings, loans, all of it to me. Give me it all.
Or you can join what Andrew Tate says is a secret society of elites called the War Room.
So now I have the greatest network on the face of the planet. And when I say it's maybe the most money, it's not because of the membership fee. The membership fee is very low. It's cheap.
Only $5,000.
It's because of the opportunities and connections inside of the War Room.
Let's not be stupid. All elite clubs in the world are elite because elite people are invited to them and they're exclusive. You can't just join them for $5,000. Andrew Tate has a self-reported net worth of $100 million. But this is all from manipulating and taking advantage of weaker men.
All of it to me. Give me it all.
But don't just take my word for it.
So I like to make money off the vices of the weak.
They start promoting some type of off product, off thing, some type of Ponzi scheme, and many times they end up hurting a lot of people in the process, as it's happening right now. Many of these people that have made a fortune on the internet and all types of social media, so-called personalities, are literally conning the very same people that gave them the money that made them successful. Speech is even more dangerous than appearance. There are many people that look like average Joes, look like average people, but yet when they start speaking, they can manipulate people, and the Torah calls them slick-tongued people. These people have the gift of gab. Either they're very good speakers or they simply know how to manipulate words in such a fashion, your average person will believe them. And it's not even necessarily that they're so entertaining, but rather that whatever they're saying is believable. And unless a person is going to double check every word that they said and invest time into checking, they're simply going to take whatever they said to the bank. These speeches are certainly one of the key tools that the scoundrel, the crook, the imposter uses often, and even movements. Why do they do all of this? Why do they dress this way? Why do they speak this way? Why do they move this way? Says the Chazon Ish, so as to win the hearts of his townspeople, causing them to trust him, to believe in him, and then use this trust to spread falsehood to benefit himself. Although that part is a given, anytime somebody misleads, it's for their personal benefit. But the way that the crooks work is sort of like a long-term investor. Usually they're not looking for a overnight success. Usually they're very patient people, and they wait for their opportunities carefully, patiently, as if time is in their favor. But if you follow their behavior, you'll see that this was all literally one big master plan. The bigger the crook, usually the more clever they are. They're usually not stupid. In fact, they're usually very smart people. But smart intellect, IQ, don't necessarily mean a person's going to be good and use it for good. It works in such a seamless way, most victims don't even know it's happening. These people will do things in order to fill their pockets. But many times the way they fill their pockets is not the the normal way. They don't necessarily ask people, send me millions of dollars, like the Christians do. You know, the Christians have this whole thing of how they command their people to give them a plane that's worth 10, 20, 50, $100 million. And somehow the people foolishly listen. They command their people to give them 10% of whatever they make, or else they're exorcised from the community. They're frowned upon. Here we see that, of course, it's because the evil inclination when it comes to funding Torah is much greater to fund idolatry. The evil inclination wants you to fund idolatry, hence the reason why there are so many of them, so many big churches, so much money going in. But the point being is that when the other places, the other religions, the other belief systems misguide and mislead their community, no Jew in the world is surprised by it. They've been doing it for ages. One was recently uncovered by the news where they said there was a certain pastor took his own community's money and simply stole it as a Ponzi scheme. And this is not the first or the last story of such. Many people hated the fact that many of these big churches were led by people that were very, very wealthy to the point of obnoxious wealth. Multiple planes, fleet of planes and boats and all types of things, while some people in the community barely had something to eat.
You said that you don't like to fly commercial because you don't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons. Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
Get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Copeland is being confronted about his purchase of a Gulfstream jet. And it turns out that that jet is just one of a fleet of jets that he owns, along with a boathouse, a mansion, and his very own airport. A preacher that is supposedly worth hundreds of millions of dollars, with an enormous following. That he is just one of many.
Pastor what is now the largest church in America, weekly sermon watched by more than 10 million viewers on television.
One of my chandeliers costs more than most people's house. I got 22 chandeliers in the house.
They don't need mansions. They don't need jets.
God told me to have that plane.
Any religious leader who speaks the word of God, who has more than one suit, while someone has no clothes, is a cop-out.
Yeah, you know, Larry, I just don't see it that way.
For $54 million, I want you to imagine how many people could be fed.
Well,
how many homeless could have places to sleep.
The fresh breath of all.
Televangelism is still thriving in this country. If you were willing to pay the price, you could talk directly to God.
It's a huge business that's also created a huge controversy.
It's a strategy where they decided to target the poorest people in the world.
What is a pyramid?
What is
If that's not a pyramid, what's a pyramid?
People think, oh, it's only a course,
right?
$26,000. Are you listening, everyone at home? Are you listening?
All he had to do was sell more access to himself.
Of course, spitting at HaShem in the face in the process, many of these people care less about HaShem. They care about money.
It doesn't matter what you say, what you think, what you do, what I say will happen. Because I don't listen to anybody. It doesn't matter who. If God comes, I will not listen to him because I know better than him. So when it comes to life, fundamental life, I am an absolute authoritarian.
How to spot the criminal. How to spot the crooks that are misleading communities in the most awful ways. This is a lesson that each and every single one of us, that if we can follow it, it's going to help you avoid a lot of anguish. Great is the sin of the scoundrel, so as to win the hearts of his townspeople, causes them to trust him and believe in him, and then uses this trust to spread falsehood to benefit himself, doing many bad deeds in order to fill his own pockets, and covering his deceitfulness with smooth talk, presenting himself as innocent and incapable of deceit, as if his ways are straight and his words truthful.
Tithing lays the foundation for financial success and abundance. Tithing is the way for recession or depression to bypass you.
I want you to go to the phone or online and sow a seed.
Somebody's son is going to be set free from alcohol because of your $1,000 seed.
I'm going to ask you to sow an exceptional and uncommon seed of $1,000.
Click on that donation button to sow $1,144.
So God is giving you the harvest, and the harvest of the seed you sow. You can't expect a harvest if you don't sow seed, spiritual, physical, or financial.
And unfortunately, since much of this stuff is unregulated, under the radar, and even if it's in the cover of the news, no one cares enough in order to do much about it. This is going to continue until it becomes even more massive. In cryptocurrencies and things that are like it, literally unbelievable. The amount of fraud that's available on the internet, all types of fraudulent products and fraudulent services and fraudulent gurus and so on. It's literally, you have to pray 5 times a day, not 3 times a day, just to literally merit having somebody honest to deal with in the business world these days. Everywhere you look, there's some form of dishonesty, there's some form of corruption. And people would assume, yeah, but if they already have a lot of money, why would they cheat? It has nothing to do with having a lot of money or not. Just because somebody has a lot of money doesn't mean they stop cheating. A person that has confidence in Hashem, cheating, lying, it's not part of their vocabulary. I know that whatever is mine, God will give me. I don't need to cheat. Whatever He wants to give me, He'll give me. I don't need to cheat. And in fact, me cheating is going to guarantee that whatever I do get, that comes from God anyway, is not going to have the blessing, and therefore is going to come with curses, and therefore will be taken away, and it therefore is going to create a lot of problems that are going to literally turn the person's life into a cursed life. In the world, people today admire successful people, famous people, whether they're famous basketball players, all types of other forms of celebrities, famous executives, successful executives. Many times people don't even know who the person is, but as soon as they hear that this person is successful, that this person had a certain amount of success, they start admiring this person and taking every one of their words as if it's Mount Sinai. And in fact, this is the sleeping ground for all the thieves and the crooks. One of the primary ways that they take advantage of the public is by portraying themselves as successful, because people are stupid enough to believe them, that they worked for the government, that they did business dealings with major organizations, that they're friends with all types of people, and people will literally befriend them and even do business with them just because of the words that they say, give them a fortune of money for all types of things, and then end up crying about the fact that this person cheated them. Well, if you would not do business with people just simply because they say they're successful, and you would actually do business with people because of what they have to offer, and an actual real track record, and a real relationship of some kind, then you wouldn't get this type of outcome. But unfortunately, when a person is so shallow that they're only going to marry somebody because they look a certain way, or have a certain type of profession, or they have a certain type of possessions, or they're only going to befriend a person because they're part of a certain family, or they're part of a certain community, or they're only going to do business with somebody because they have a certain type of customer base, or a certain type of office in a certain location. These are shallow behavior traits. These are horrible decision-making factors. When a person has bitachon in Hashem, they're not looking for what kind of suit a person is wearing in order to make their determination. They're not looking for all of these types of things that are superficial and shallow. The primary thing that a person is looking for is, does this person have yirat shamayim or not? Do they have fear of heaven or not? Of course, they need to be able to conduct business, but do they have any fear of heaven or not? Now, of course, there are many times that you need to do business with somebody that is not even religious, so obviously they do not have any fear of heaven. But even the people that are not religious, even the people that do not have the same beliefs that you do, can still portray a certain level of respect for the Torah, for Hashem, that is enough for you to make a more educated decision, if that's the only choice that you have. But if a person portrays complete carelessness about God, and in fact is even insulting and mocking one of these enemies of God, the LGBT, obviously these are people you have to run away from. But the point being is that we have here a society that admires the most shallow things, that also makes society very vulnerable to scams and scandals. And wait till you'll see how many Ponzi schemes and scandals unfold in the coming year or two once the market collapses, because when the tide returns, that's when you know who is wearing clothes or not.
The new explosive allegations in the Tony Robbins sex scandal, several more women are accusing the self-help guru of inappropriate behavior.
Motivation guru Tony Robbins is responding to allegations of sexual misconduct. He denies ever doing anything untoward, but at the same time, he's also issuing an apology.
There was some freak out, like you just need to leave.
Kimberly is one of 9 women who have told BuzzFeed News that Robbins groped them, exposed himself, or made unwanted advances.
And you'll see many, many times biggest scandals in the world end up being shown at the end of a bull market, at the end of the uprise. And there's going to be a huge amount, much more than what we've seen so far. Already before the whole crisis, there's already a huge amount of scandals just now in the currency, the cryptocurrency industry. The second biggest exchange just showed that it's completely a Ponzi scheme, corrupt. The guy was supposedly worth $35 billion last year. Today, it's obviously a negative net worth and he's on his way to jail.
The highly anticipated criminal trial and sentencing for Sam Bankman-Fried is kicking off, with Sam facing 7 counts of fraud and conspiracy that could net him a life sentence, worth $32 billion in just a few short years, but then even more quickly went bankrupt virtually overnight amidst discoveries of massive fraud and scandal. He graced the covers of Time magazine and rubbed shoulders with the likes of Tom Brady and Bill Clinton in the Bahamas, where he lived like royalty. Now, with billions of consumer dollars completely wiped out and many thousands of lives ruined, Sam has become the very embodiment of crypto abuse and bad behavior that he said he was campaigning against. But just how did we get here to become the greatest fraudster of all time?
Obviously, if he was worth $35 billion, the supposable exchange was worth much more. These types of scandals are small in comparison to what's coming. Unethical, illegal, and corrupt business practices have become standard in a society that's absent of Torah. Every single second, you stay friends with your old Christian friends, with your old missionary friends, with your old atheist friends, with your old friends that are anti-Torah, is a life risk. And that's why the Chachamim say, stay away from the ugly and even what looks like it's ugly. What does it mean if it looks like? It's one of your religious friends that likes to watch movies. He's religious, but he likes to go to the movie theater and watch a few filthy movies over there. Stay away from him too. Within a matter of time, he'll affect you. She'll affect you. Your best friend since kindergarten, she doesn't really like the Torah. She doesn't really like to walk around modest. Stay away from her too. It's only a matter of time. If you're in a transition to do tshuva, being surrounded by people that are part of your past will keep you there. You'll have a much more difficult time moving forward if you're surrounded by people that are from your past. Why? Because they're not moving forward and you want to. But now, you're going to feel bad about moving forward while they stay the same. You're going to feel embarrassed to move forward while they stay the same. They're going to remind you of it constantly, so you have to make some very difficult choices. Unless they're respectable people, unless they're very receptive, and so on. But if the people are anti-Torah, or they're simply just mikulkalim, people are just simply rotten, or just something went wrong that's along the lines, and unless there's a hand of HaShem involved, you can't change them, stay away. People always ask me, how do you survive this world? Especially young men, where even if you want to protect your eyes, even if you want to protect your bleed, even if you want to do all types of things, how do you do it? If you're not learning Torah and Musar every single day, you're going to have a very difficult time. When it comes to learning Torah and Musar, you not only have to learn Torah and Musar, but you also have to learn from a place that inspires you. Because many times people get inspired by, let's say, our shiurim, to do tshuva, to get some chizuk, to do good things, and then they figure they finished. They watched 50 shiurim, 100 shiurim, 200 shiurim, they figure they're finished. Let me move on to just learning books. Mistake. Why is it a mistake? If those shiurim inspired you to get started, they're inspiring you now. And you abandoning it, you letting it go is a mistake, and you could easily fall back to where you used to be. You have to keep doing it. Second thing is, you have to put a fence around certain things, meaning you have to try to mitigate the risk by not putting yourself in risky situations. So for example, for young men, where they have a tough time, let's say, going out in the public, things like shopping, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it easy. Even though there's filthy stuff everywhere, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us easy choices to avoid it. In most places that Jews live, it's relatively developed areas, and you could simply not go to the stores. Ever. You need food, you need something, you press a couple of buttons, within a little while, boxes show up. That's it. That's the way it is. Why? Because you want to limit certain things. Can you go to the store? Yes, you can go to the store. But if you know that you can't handle it, don't go to the store. Be conscious of the fact that there are certain places that trigger you, and you have to think of a solution. And a solution doesn't mean like, oh, no. You know what? I'm going to go, but I'm just going to close my eyes the whole time. You have to be realistic. This also includes protecting yourself from televisions and cable channels, from internet, websites, and all types of channels that are full of garbage, from music that's full of garbage. You have to get rid of a lot of the stuff that triggers you. If you want to progress, that means you have to abandon the past. But the point being is that if you know that something causes you to think of the past too much, you have to abandon it. There's certain things you have to be more strict with, than others, but nonetheless, you have to move away from the danger. If you're going to be surrounded by bad people, you're going to be affected. Whether you are good or bad in your nature, doesn't matter. It's a matter of time, it's going to affect you. Stay away from evil and do good. What does the Talmud hint about social media and its harms to relationships?
By the age of 15, 86% of kids have a smartphone, according to Common Sense Media. There are a lot of positives, right? Connecting with friends, for example, but there are also some very real risks. 46% of teens 13 to 17 said that social media makes them feel worse.
Just how triggering are our phones when it comes to dopamine?
It's just like gambling.
You may have heard people talk about getting a dopamine hit when they get a like on social media.
Yeah, but what exactly is dopamine and what is it doing to your brain?
The euphoric feeling when that latest Instagram selfie becomes a huge hit, likes suddenly pouring in from friends, family, and followers. Social media platforms leverage the same neural circuitry as slot machines and drugs to keep us satisfied and coming back for even more. Dopamine is a type of neurotransmitter or chemical in the brain. It also plays a major role in how we feel pleasure, helping us to strive, focus, and find things interesting.
If we were to look at ourselves through the lens of an experiment like we would an animal experiment, we think that animal is sick. If you saw an animal digging in the corner, looking for a bone, the dog is looking, you'd think, that's really sad. That's us.
Once that dopamine high wears off, we're often left feeling even worse than before. The universal symptoms of dopamine withdrawal include anxiety, irritability, insomnia, low self-esteem, and depression. But that next hit probably won't be as rewarding.
People look like they have a much better life than they really do. People are posting pictures of when they're really happy. They're modifying those pictures to be better looking for the best lighting, the best angle. Those people you think are super happy, actually some of the saddest people in reality.
These kids who commit suicide, you go look at their Instagrams, you would have no clue that they were depressed.
There's entire teams of engineers whose job is to use your psychology against you.
Dopamine is the exact same chemical that makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink, and when we gamble. In other words, it's highly, highly addictive.
Well, if you believe some headlines, you'd be convinced that Facebook is single-handedly destroying the institution of marriage. A study published in Computers and Human Behavior last year did find a correlation between Facebook use and the likelihood of divorce.
The story reported that as of 2022, Pew Research Center found 30% of U.S. adults are neither married, living with a partner, nor engaged in a committed relationship. Among the causes, among the factors, a reliance on social media and online porn.
37% of teenage girls between 13 and 15 were exposed to unwanted nudity in a week on Instagram. You knew about it. Who did you fire? 24% said that they had experienced unwanted sexual advances. They'd been propositioned. 17% said they had encountered self-harm content pushed at them in the last 7 days.
It's important for a person to know that one of the things that the Talmud teaches us is not just about social media per se, but simply how to behave. In order to connect to God, it requires holiness. And holiness, Rashi and the Ramban both clarify it, holiness comes from the issues of morality. The more modest a woman is, the more holy she will be. The more modest a man is, the more holy he will be. Just because someone is modest because of their clothes doesn't necessarily automatically mean they're modest everywhere else. By being modest in behavior, in clothing, and just simply the way that they socialize, that automatically makes the person a vessel that is able to accept a certain amount of holiness in the world. Part of a woman's modesty, to her benefit, is going to determine what kind of husband she's going to get. Talmud in Masechet Sotah says that a woman that's modest will be a wife to a man that's righteous. A man that's wicked will get a woman that's not modest. Why? Because if she is modest, that means that she's more likely to be righteous, and therefore the match that God's going to make is a righteous woman with a righteous man. If she's not modest, then there's no possible way that she could be righteous, and therefore the match for her that's perfect is a wicked man also. She's wicked, she goes to a wicked man. Furthermore, the sages teach us that just because a person is modest doesn't mean that they are completely oblivious of the joy of life, including the intimate aspects of life, while maintaining holiness and in fact elevating holiness and modesty. If a person ignores all of these things and simply just wants to live in the world the way the world is, then certainly that person is going to throw modesty into the garbage. She's going to post all types of pictures about herself and her life and even parts of her body on the internet, on social media, and that in itself is going to bring many curses to her life. Not just from the Creator itself, but curses she's bringing upon herself. You yourself are minimizing your significance in the world, because instead of being the daughter of the Creator, you are now have objectified yourself, and to tell people that your significance depends on the way you look, on what you eat, on where you go, on what you wear. You've in essence taken this extraordinary presence that God gave you, being the daughter of the Creator, being the daughter of the King of Kings. You've taken that and all that comes with it, and you've minimized it into something meaningless and something that's only for a temporary amount of time. The food that you are putting pictures of you eating, that food, people may not like it tomorrow. It may end up being causing people disease. That dress that you are showing people off that you just got may very well be out of style by the time you post that picture or people look at it. And then instead of them celebrating it with you, they'll actually make fun of you that you're wearing it. The immodesty that a woman presents herself as, and whether she's wearing or not wearing certain clothes, is also temporary as the body changes. And all she will have is, number one, the people that simply only want to be next to her because of our physical shape, and those very same people that will leave her because of that physical shape changes, and also a life full of regrets that she could no longer be that person because age catches up with everybody. So if a woman wants to simply live a life full of regrets, a life that only attracts meaningless endeavors, attracts worthless relationships, attracts only people that want to take advantage of you, socialize on social media as much as you want. But if a woman wants to have meaningful life, a life that has a purpose, the last thing she would do is put even a single picture of anything related to her life. And in fact, any personal detail about her life on social media or anywhere. In fact, I would even say that a woman shouldn't even share pictures with family as often as people do, unless they promise to never share it with anybody else. If you want to send your mother or your father a picture of you and the kids, or you being, I don't know, wherever you are in the world, as long as they promise not to share with everybody else, I'd say, okay, that may be okay. Otherwise, I wouldn't share it. Why? Because there are so many sick people in the world that the very same technology that has caused all of the sins of the world to be magnified, the Gemara in Masechet Sotah at the end gives prophecies of what's going to happen at the end of times. One of them is going to be the chutzpah tizgeh. There's going to be a lot of obnoxiousness and rudeness and lewd behavior is going to be standard.
What? Little Prop, what you gonna do? What you gonna do, Little Prop? Yeah. Yeah.
Needless to say, this is something that doesn't need qualification. We see it in life. Everywhere we walk, we see people, how they behave, what they post online. So a woman that sees that technology is advancing so rapidly now that now you no longer need to get certain images of people and imagine. Now, a woman can simply give her face, a picture of herself to somebody, and that person, some sick-minded person, could simply take that person's face and have AI do the rest. And literally have all types of immoral, disgusting, horrible thoughts with your wife in mind, with your daughter in mind. Who wants to be that person other than a lowlife?
40 students say they were targeted by a former classmate who put their faces on pornographic images. It's called deep fake porn.
To fight against a dangerous trend in artificial intelligence.
From local students to a music superstar, AI is being used to create pornographic images.
District attorney calling on Albany to change the law to make it a crime to digitally alter sexually explicit images.
The disturbing new way technology is being used to target and harass people.
particularly women, putting someone's face on someone else's body.
A world of digitally altered videos and images that can be made using just one photo of someone's face.
The world of deepfakes is very, very sinister. One study found that 96% of deepfake images are considered sexually explicit.
The most targeted women are private individuals, and it's now done mainly using apps.
This is what it looks like to see yourself naked against your will being spread all over the internet.
The Washington Post reporting that these types of videos are popping up on pornographic websites more and more frequently.
Why did you create images of young women in pornographic films and videos?
AI technology has advanced at such a rapid rate that it's cheap and easy for apps to make these images on a huge scale.
If you have video on TikTok, the image of yourself on Instagram or on Facebook, or you created a video on YouTube, or somebody else took your photo and put it online, you now are at risk.
Our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time. You see, I would never say these things, at least not in a public address, but someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele.
Videos like these, called deep fakes, made with artificial intelligence tools that are easily found online and enable users who can find enough images of someone to take that person's face and put it on someone else's body.
Deepfakes use machine learning to fabricate events that never happened, like Bill Hader shapeshifting.
I said Seth Rogen was like, it was amazing. He has like a bike track in his backyard. It's phenomenal. and I did a Seth Rogen impression, and it was like I did a magic trick. Tom Cruise was like, yeah.
And there's growing concern that in the wrong hands, this technology can
pose a very real national security threat.
Could become a real and present danger to our democracy.
In 2023, 600,000 deepfake images of women and children, private individuals, were uploaded to 10 public websites.
Social media is discussed extensively in the Torah, in the oral Torah, in the written Torah, in halacha, and it all begins with our treatment of morality, our treatment of holiness, and needless to say, how modest we want to live our life. One of the biggest tragedies that we have in our generation is the addiction to wasting seed. But everybody knows that wasting seed doesn't happen by itself. It all begins with the eyes. The Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah says, careful at the things that you see during the day, so the Ra, the evil, does not come to you at night. Chachamim say, what's Ra? Ra is wasting seed. Chachamim say, from there we learn that wasting seed, being promiscuous and all of the immorality, is considered evil in the eyes of Hashem. There's nothing new under the sun. Wasting seed is literally in Sefer Bereshit. Adam Rishon left his wife after the sin. The Zohar Kadosh says he left his wife to do tshuva. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu already said it's not good for man to be alone. A wife, if she takes care of his children and she keeps him away from immorality, she's a Eshet Chayil. It's impossible for him not to waste seed. Adam Rishon made a mistake. What did he do? He left his wife thinking, I'm going to get closer to Hashem. Say, I'm sorry for eating from the tree of knowledge. He left her for almost 130 years. Problem is, during that 130 years, he wasted seed. All of the demons in the world came from him. Meaning that wasting seed already started at Sefer Bereshit. Wasting seed is not a new thing. Many scientists did not believe that pornography is something that is addictive until many other scientists proved them wrong.
Experts say there's another pandemic happening right in our homes. Children exposed to pornography on the devices we give them.
It's on the school bus, it's in the lunchroom. It can, in fact, be anywhere where a child has a device that's hooked up to the internet.
It's happening earlier, in some instances, while kids are still in elementary school.
I think a lot of parents are naive, thinking, well, he's only 8, or he's only 9 or 10. Well, the research shows us now that boys are being exposed at about the age of 10, and girls are being exposed at about maybe 11 or 12. Parents don't want to believe that because it's so frightening.
If he is viewing porn on a regular basis starting at age 11, it's going to have to be progressively more stimulating for him as he becomes a teenager and as he becomes a young man. It becomes almost impossible for that young man to have a normal, healthy sexual relationship with a partner.
It's going in visually and auditorily, and it's elevating elements of the central nervous system. The subliminal messages of aggression, though, are still entering the brain, and then they have this belief that I must act the same way.
The experts agree. Porn isn't going anywhere, so it's on parents to protect their children.
Our responsibility as adults is to protect our kids, and that is sometimes telling them there are certain things they can't do. And I got to tell you, this generation of parents, for the most part, blanket statement, they're not doing their job.
There is an extensive paper written by a group of different scientists about the addiction of pornography. And they call it the new drug, how porn changes the brain. And it literally says that what they found in their research is that pornography is no less addictive than the hardest drugs in the world. When the Rambam wrote in Halakha that the biggest addiction a human being can have is to waste seed, he was saying it as this is divine information. Now, why did the scientists arrive at this conclusion? That pornography, the first stage that leads to wasting seed, is something that's addictive. Says that what happens with pornography is that it triggers a protein called delta phos B. Delta phos B is one of the things that a person in essence gets pleasure from, but it's also one of the things that connects to addiction. Drug addiction, sex addiction, money addiction, all types of addiction. And in essence, this particular protein is confused, thinking now after he saw him seeing this immodesty led to a good feeling, it now connects the brain to think that every time he sees this filth, it's gonna lead to good. So now what happens is a kid doesn't know right or left, 12, 13, 14 years old, gets a phone, goes on a computer, has free access, goes on the internet, starts looking at pornography, things he's never even imagined in his worst dreams, and he gets pleasure as a result of it, thinking it's not a big deal. Even sometimes the parents do it next to the kids, HaShem Yachem. I have one kid telling me that his father watches it in the living room, no problem. I said, you must have done some serious sins in your previous life to have such a father. What kind of people we have in the world? In the old generation, at least the people would be ashamed of it. They would do it privately. Today they do it openly, in the office, next to the guys. Hey, come look at this. That's what people do today. They have no shame whatsoever. Guess what? Research says pornography sites have more members that are women than men. Surprise, surprise, of the sick generation we live in. They get a certain pleasure as a result of seeing this filth, and now this particular protein programs their brain to think that every time they see nakedness, it will lead to good. Hence, the addiction. Immodesty, not only of what you see, but the immodesty of how you dress. When you are addicted to filth, you don't value yourself. You value what people perceive you as. If they perceive you as pretty, you feel pretty. If they perceive you as ugly, you feel ugly, because you're too dependent on other people's opinion instead of your own opinion. No, I like to wear this clothes. It makes me feel good about myself. You're a filthy liar even to yourself. What's the proof? If you were stuck on an island by yourself, your next door neighbor was a monkey, a chimpanzee, and a giraffe, would you still wear that filthy clothes and put makeup on that's 3 pounds thick? No. Why? Because no one's there to look at you. Because you're a self-conscious person. You have all the tools in the world to be happy as can possibly be, regardless of what you look like. Why? You're God's daughter, for heaven's sake. What else do you need? What is Ashir? Ashir means wealthy. What's really Ashir? Ayin, Enaim, Shin, Shinaim, Yud, Yadayim, Resh, Raglaim. You have eyes, you have teeth, you have arms, your legs, you're rich. You're perfect. You don't need a 6-pack and a 2-pack and a 1-pack and eyes here and eyes there and arms here. You don't need any of that stuff. There's somebody for somebody everywhere. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that is mezavek zivugim. You depend on other people's taste, other people's visions, you're going to live a very poor life. Now what happens is with those people, they end up being very lonely.
I thought it would be good to be rich and famous. It would be good to be the opposite of this. It would be good to have stuff. It would be good to have money. It would be good to be invited to the party. Well, I've been invited. I've been in. We're having this chat in a private Swish members club in East London. It's super cool. There's bare brick walls. Everyone's double good looking. But I've been inside now. I've seen the other side of the looking glass. It ain't worth it. It's not good. It don't feed your soul. I still feel empty inside.
When people say, oh, I want to be like you, I want to be an actor, I want to look like you, the question I always ask them is why?
I was a millionaire, beautiful women in my life. I had cars, a house, an incredible solid gold career and a future. And yet, on a daily basis, I wanted to commit suicide.
I struggled a long time, not only my bouts of depression that I've had, but also things that have happened to me earlier on. And
my security and stuff were coming into the room at night to check my pulse. Like, people don't know how serious it got. Like, it was legit crazy scary.
I don't even want to look like Katy Perry anymore sometimes.
My private life is
boring disaster. But work is good.
Quite honestly, I just didn't want to be alive.
I'm in 4 lawsuits. It consumes my life. Depositions, interrogations.
I was surrounded by all this wealth and all this fame and all this power, and yet they were all miserable, and I had never been more miserable.
I don't have a mom I can call. I don't have a father I can call.
And I know tons of people in the Silicon Valley, hundreds of millions of dollars, and are as miserable and as lonely and as broken as you'll ever see.
I get depressed. Take antidepressants. They're very helpful. I've taken them since I was 26 years old.
I always suffered with depression. When I was on top of the world, it became more and more and more depressed until it was like suicidal thoughts.
When they really want to make you crazy in prison, they put you in isolation, right? The second you become famous, you're kind of in a weird isolation.
Money doesn't make you happy. It never did. I mean, history will tell you that.
I had ground and scraped and fought to make movies and to make the things that I wanted to make, sell books and sell scripts, and I was doing all those things. And then I get there and I'm like a broken shell of myself. And this is after a good year. This is after making tons of money. When you get to the top, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's just more of that. If you want it.
They're paying me a ton of money. I'm doing everything I had dreamt of doing for 30 years. It all came true. And I am the least happy I've ever been in my life.
And when you're very lonely, you end up doing many, many mistakes. One of them is getting addicted to pornography. There are sex centers in every single community now because of the addictions that people have. It's a reality. It all starts with yourself. Rabbi Nachman Breslov Alav Shalom says, Likutei Maharan, person is promiscuous with himself, eventually is promiscuous with the opposite sex. Promiscuous with the opposite sex, eventually same sex. Why? It's not enough. He wants taboo. By himself, not enough. Watching a certain type of filth. So he watches some other filth. Eventually he wants to fulfill that filth. It wasn't enough for him to see normal filth, so now he wants to see abnormal. You don't start controlling yourself of what you're looking at, eventually you're going to become the next pedophile. There's no filter for the people's desires.
So the harms of pornography are nearly infinite. For example, the first one is that it's extremely addictive.
Like at no point in human history have we been able to do a quick search online from the comfort of our own pocket. It's been able to look at millions and millions of hours of unrestricted access to any kinds of videos of people having sex on our phones as we want. That's entirely unnatural. Our ancestors, our grandparents, have never seen as many naked people as we have seen in our day and age within nearly 5 minutes.
Dr. Lawrence American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology shows us what happens to your brain when you watch porn using SPECT scanning.
This is a scan of a sex addict brain, an 18-year-old sex addict brain. And we compare that to a normal brain, and at the naked eye, we can tell this is not normal. Now, if we compare that to someone who has cocaine addiction, this is a person who has cocaine addiction. As you can tell, in the prefrontal cortex and the parietal lobe, they're very similar, although you don't see the top part of this brain. The scalloping is about the same if we looked at this sagittally. So we'll see a lot of the same deactivation from cocaine and sexual addiction. You can tell again from someone who's a normal brain, we obviously don't see that degree of scalloping. It takes over the mind.
You can filter the phone as much as you want, the computer as much as you want. Guess what? They'll find another computer. Yirat Shamayim is the only thing that can help people stop. Gemara, Masechet Yoma, page 29, says the thoughts of sin are worse than the sin itself. Once you get the junk into your mind, it's already worse than the sin itself. The thoughts come from not watching your eyes. But when it's the intellect, when the sin is in your mind, when it comes from pornography, that sin is literally in your mind at all times. You can think filth all the time. What ends up happening is you train your mind to things that are unrealistic. You start thinking that everything is supposed to be that way. You think that your wife is supposed to look like this. You think that your wife is supposed to do things like this. This is the way your husband is supposed to look like, and all types of disgusting things. I'm not talking about the non-religious world. HaShem Yachem, what's happening over there? This is what you're having your kids watch if you have a television at home. You have a TV, you have free internet in your house. They're allowed to see whatever they want. They're definitely watching this film. How do I know? I talk to those kids. They start training their mind to unrealistic circumstances. It's like the aroma of meat. The smell of the meat is much more enticing than the meat itself, because the smell of the meat gives you unrealistic expectations. When you smell the meat, it always smells delicious. You want to eat it. You want to have all of it. You want to have the whole cow. Once you have a bite, it's not that good. That's pornography. Those unrealistic expectations end up arriving at the limited reality that we have, which disappoint an endless amount of people and lead to an endless amount of divorces. There are countless men and women that are married to beautiful people that file for divorces weekly. Celebrities, for the most part, are generally beautiful people, yet they all get married and divorced 4, 5, 6, 7 numberless times. He's rich, he's beautiful, what's wrong with him? She's ugly. They can't even get what they want ever. It's only a matter of time for them to be sick of whatever good they have anyway. Even what they have that they think is good now eventually will become old news. That's why the divorce rate is only a matter of time in the secular world, in the celebrity world. That's how awful their world is. Because of these unrealistic expectations, that once a person trains themselves for disgustingness, trains themselves for immorality, and makes themselves addicted, they in essence become much more vulnerable, because to you it became the new normal. Gemara says after you make the same sin twice, yetzer tells you it's allowed. But once you become addicted to pornography, now you're much more vulnerable. Anybody says, oh, come look at this, you're going. Somebody says, come to this filthy club, you're going. Somebody says, you want to go a double date, going. It's easier to repeat the sin even further when the sin is a thought. That's why it says the sin of thought is worse than the sin itself. You can make the sin in the middle of the afternoon, you're at work, you're in your office, you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. Somebody upsets you. You remember in your mind the last time you were upset, the way you relieved yourself that made yourself not upset is you went and did some filthy things. So what do? You go to the bathroom, you go to your car, you half-hour break, you're finished. Some guys are so addicted, they do it in school, they do it in everywhere. They do it all day, all night, girls too. And they don't even realize it's a disease. It's like having cancer and AIDS at the same time and thinking you're perfectly healthy. It's not enough to tell you about Gehinnom. It's not enough to tell you about Kafakela. It's not enough to tell you about Yirat Shamayim. You have to tell the person how they're ruining their own life. Your money, every time you make money, it's always being spent on bills and IRS and doctor bills, and you don't have enough money ever, even though you got a raise every year since you started, right? Yeah, how'd you know? That's because all the shefa that Hashem gives you, you're wasting it. You start showing them that all of the curses of the Torah that are mentioned by the Chachamim are actually happening in his life. You start showing people this stuff is not just a punishment in Gehinnom that they don't even know what it is yet. You show them in their own life stuff that happens in this world to people. Difficulty finding a shidduch, people are cheating on you, people are lying to you, all types of health issues, all types of weird things with your body. You start seeing things, weird stuff happening when you go to sleep, see all types of beings, everything looks like a face to you, all types of wonderful stuff that you definitely don't want in your life. You go on the internet, you go type in night terrors, you see how many hundreds of videos people made about night terrors, but nobody has the reason except the Torah. Anyone that has night terrors, it's only happening because of wasting seed and avodah zarah. That's usually two are connected, because wasting seed, according to the Gemara, is the same thing as avodah zarah. That's what avodah zarah requires, blood or seed. The point is, Rabotai, that everything that the scientists recently discovered from different neurological experiments, psychological experiments, and so on, already is written in the Gemara. This is why you have to protect your eyes, no matter whether you're male or female. If you are one of these new Jewish podcasters, or you want to be a speaker of some kind, even those that call themselves Torah speakers, this section is for you. Now, why is it called a warning? Because you have at the end of the parashat Emor, it stands out like a sore thumb. And while of course the average person that doesn't delve deeper into the Torah may not necessarily see themselves in this section, but I could assure you it is relevant to every single one of us, especially at our moments of weakness, and even more so to people that speak publicly, or even simply people that speak to a lot of people. It says, the son of the Israelite woman went out and he was the son of an Egyptian man among the children of Israel. They fought in the camp. The son of the Israelite woman pronounced the name and blasphemed, and they brought him to Moshe. The name of his mother was Shlomit, daughter of Divri, of the tribe of Dan. They placed him under guard to clarify for themselves through Hashem. In verse number 13, Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, "Remove the blasphemer to the outside of the camp, and all those who heard shall lean their hands upon his head, and to the children of Israel you shall speak, saying, any man who will blaspheme his God shall bear his sin. And one who pronounces blasphemily the name of Hashem, the entire assembly shall surely stone him, convert and native alike. When he blasphemes the name, he shall be put to death." So here we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not just a fairy tale that sometimes people would like for him to be, where he loves everyone and he accepts every sin, no matter what you do, he is merciful. Well, apparently, God kills. If you haven't been to a hospice center, I would suggest you go and visit and see that God still kills today. I would suggest you look at some police reports in your local precinct and see what happens in society, or perhaps even just go to the local ambulance attendant and ask him, "How was your last week? Tell me about your work." In so many words, they're going to tell you that God does kill. Nobody lives forever. And in fact, the vast majority of people, according to a US census study done about 8 years ago, the vast majority of people do not die of old age, but rather through tragedy. So even though they say, according to statistics, that the lifespan today is longer, according to them, than it was in the past, that's if they don't have any tragedy. But if you look at the actual death toll in the world, there are a few 100,000 people that die every single day. A large portion of them die tragically. So God still kills. Now here, God is instructing to kill. Why? Somebody cursed his name. Somebody mocked his Torah. Why is it that God decided that this man, the blasphemer, has lost his right to exist? If someone curses the name of God, mocks the Torah, if somebody even gets in the way of the Torah being shown to people, taught to people, let's just say you arranged a lecture for the rabbi to come to your community and somebody decided to spoil the event and told everyone that the event was canceled even though it wasn't. Or perhaps the rabbi was teaching and people were watching the lecture, and then you decided to tell the people, no, don't watch this rabbi. Let's go watch sports instead. These are different ways where you got in the way of the Torah. You desecrated the word of Hashem by doing something like that. Karet yikaret nafsho. His soul shall be cut off. We understand that being a blasphemer is of the same horrible category of sins, where someone is in essence declaring war against Hashem. But why would this person do such a thing? This went from bad to worse. Why did it go from bad to worse? Because it says the son of the Israelite woman went out. What does it mean he went out? The Ibn Ezra, nearly 800 years ago, clarifies. It says vayetzer, he went out to teach us. If he thought bad things about Hashem, certainly it's not good, certainly it's a sin, but he would not get the death penalty. The reason why this had to be the most severe punishment for the most severe crime is because he went out. He announced it publicly that he's rejecting the Torah. He announced it publicly that he doesn't care for the laws of the Torah. Once he announced it publicly that he rejects the truth of the Torah, it became a new category of sin. A sin that causes other people to sin. A sin that weakens others. And therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe, Moshe, you have to kill him. The only reason why they kept him in prison wasn't because they thought that maybe perhaps Hashem is going to let it go. No! Was simply because they wanted to know whether they should put him in the same prison cell as Slofchad that violated Shabbat. So they didn't know if a blasphemer is of the same category or worse. This, Rabotai, is also to teach us the average wicked person that publicizes things against God does not take into account. When you decide to go online and start spewing heresy, or simply your lack of interest in the Torah, and in fact scorn the Torah, mocked the Torah, mocked the sages, mocked the rabbi, you have now gone from one category of sinner to something else. When you were sinning all on your own, you decided to stop keeping Shabbat. You decided to start eating pig. You decided to go and intermarry. Whatever it is that you decided to do, it's not good. There's a punishment for it. But it is limited to a certain extent because you're not affecting others. But once you decide and take your heretical opinions, your simple disregard and hatred of the Torah, your heresy, and publicize it online, you have now gone from one category of sinner into something else. You went from being a sinner into an enemy of God. And now you have a problem. Not with me, not with any other rabbi. You have a problem with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You now have the biggest problem that you can possibly imagine. Your behavior is affecting others. Therefore the Torah says, if a man strikes another man mortally, if you destroy another person's servitude of God, where after he hears, you, Mr. Brilliant Mind in the eyes of yourself, you, Mr. Millionaire for now, before you declare bankruptcy from your gambling addiction, you degenerate. If you don't want God, perhaps maybe this young, naive, young boy or a girl are gonna listen to you and also not go to synagogue anymore, also stop eating kosher, also stop saying Shema Yisrael. Why? They saw somebody that they look up to, that they admire, that they want what they have. Had they really known what they have, they would know that this is a cancer. But now you've actually destroyed somebody's neshama. And therefore, God promises, this is a punishment that's promised to any enemy of God that causes others to abandon God. But even if they don't abandon Him completely, but rather just a little, they used to learn 4 hours a day, but after they watched you, they're down to only 1 hour, and they're struggling. They used to protect their eyes, and now look at pornography and all of the filth of the world. But now after they saw you, they started looking a little bit. Eye for an eye. They used to be careful with the kosher laws until your fake scientific degree that only got you a job that barely makes minimum wage at some yeshiva that pretends to be a yeshiva because in reality the vast majority of the kids there are completely secular. Now that you told them you don't really have to be so stringent with the kosher laws and wash the salad so much and be careful for bugs and be careful for this, you can even eat a salad at non-kosher restaurant. So now they saw you, admire you, so they're not so careful with the kosher laws. A tooth for a tooth. Just like you inflicted a wound on a person, whether flesh or body, the same will happen to you. Why? You became the enemy of God. Now, of course, a person is going to think, well, how many such people are there in the world? The Gemara in Masechet Sotah, the last daf, predicts what's going to happen at the end of times. Even though there's nothing new under the sun, there's always been wicked people. And there will continue to be wicked people until the Mashiach comes and eliminates all of them. Still, the Gemara says that before the Mashiach arrives, all of the most wicked neshamot, all of the most wicked souls that ever existed, that still have a chance to fix something or to simply cause more damage, because that's their role, they're gonna be in that generation. And that's why before every Shabbat, Psalm number 92, Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat, in that very psalm, David HaMelech tells us the status of the world then and now, when the wicked sprout like grass and they flourish, all of the doers of sins and iniquity, ultimately you will destroy all of them forever. Wicked people, they grow like grass. Many people are wicked. How many? The majority choose to be evil. When? Now, before the Mashiach arrives. Today they look like they're a millionaire. Today they look like they're living large. Look around the corner and they're gone. But the tzaddik, the righteous, they're few. When they rise, they're like a palm tree, strong. Nobody's gonna uproot them. Even the most difficult tests that come like a hurricane cannot take down the tzaddik. See, Rabotai Karim, Many people make the wrong choice because they don't realize what the ramifications. And we have to see, what does our Torah tell us? Pirkei Avot. It is better than any guru or self-help or inspirational speaker you could ever imagine, because it's literally words of the living God. The ultimate musar. Superficially, just to give you a little bit of a taste and remind all of these so-called Jewish podcasters and the people that like to publicize their heresy, publicize their sins, publicize their stupidity. This is what God thinks. In chapter number 3, consider 3 things. Where did you come from? You came from a putrid seed. Where are you gonna go? You're gonna become dust one day, where worms and maggots are gonna eat you. And before who will you give justification and reckoning for your actions? Before the King of Kings, who reigns over all kings, the Holy One, blessed is He. Here, one of the ultimate and most valuable lessons to a person, especially a person that has abandoned the way of God and has forgotten that God didn't just kill 3,000 years ago, He still kills today. Look at all of these celebrities that had what people thought was an admirable career, only to have a shameful life exposed in the eyes of the world. Instead of enjoying the peak of their life, the only thing they enjoy is if they're not discussed in a newspaper that day, because they're certainly going to be discussed the following day and mocked and shamed and sued. When a person does not realize where they came from, then certainly they're going to think, maybe the world is mine, maybe I can do whatever I want. And therefore the sages remind them, no, you came from nothing, because God wanted to give you a chance to serve Him, to be good, to follow the Torah. You decided to go against. Perhaps since He's not punishing you right now, or at least it seems to you like it's that, maybe He's not going to punish you. And say, no, God is beautiful, God is loving, He never punishes anybody. Well, the first 2 things were right. God is beautiful, but at the same token, don't forget, God also punishes. We fast forward to Mishnah number 15. Someone who wastes seed nullifies the covenant of Avraham Avinu, or who perverts the meaning of the Torah, contrary to halacha. Even if they have Torah and good deeds, they will still have no share of the world to come. You that decided to make YouTube videos to share your knowledge, but unfortunately distort the Torah to your own liking by telling people that they're allowed to waste seed because it's too difficult. It's too difficult to keep your hands to yourself because you're young. You write to people, you write a whole essay and show a new face to the Torah, a face that doesn't exist, a face that you drew, telling people that they're allowed to waste seed. Why? Because they're young? Because it's difficult? Whoever said such a thing? But you disregard the words of the sages. You mock them. You say, we don't listen to them. You say, no, over here they're saying that if somebody wastes seed, it's like they brought the flood. They don't really mean that. They're just exaggerating. And you're telling young, innocent, gullible young men that they could just make sins. But here the Mishnah says someone like you that wastes seed because you only permit it because you do it has no share of the world to come. And in fact, in case you say, no, I don't waste seed, well, you still have no share of the world to come. Why? Because you perverted the meaning of the Torah contrary to halacha. Because you don't know it, you assume it doesn't exist. No, there's no halacha that forbids it. Did you ever read the Shulchan Aruch? Did you ever read Kitzur Shulchan Aruch? Did you ever read the Rambam? Did you ever read anything other than the foolish notes you gather for your shiurim, if you could even call it that? But this is the same type of attitude that the podcasters like to say, even if they're not trying to teach the Torah, but rather scorn the Torah. Come on, you think that God cares if I have intermarriage? You think God cares if I watch things that are forbidden? You think God this? You think God that? Apparently He does. Because for something that you don't think is a big deal, God says they have no share of the world to come, which means the 7th level of Gehinnom, which whoever gets in there does not come out. Gemara, Masechet Rosh Hashanah, page 17a, the Reshit Chochmah, Masechet Gehinnom, and over 170 other sources brought in our film about Gehinnom. For those people that think that it doesn't exist or it's only a temporary punishment for a maximum of 12 months. And whoever says that the maximum punishment is only 12 months, the Ramban, Nachmanides, says that person is 100% a heretic that turned God into an evil God by giving such distorted definition. Why? To say that maximum punishment is 12 months for all sinners, you're telling me that a person that killed one will get the same punishment as a person that killed 100? A person that stole one will get the same punishment as a person that stole 1,000? A person that violated once is going to get the same punishment as a person that violated 1,000,000 times? What kind of evil God do you think we have? Fool. To say maximum sentence of 12 months is not only heretical, it's complete stupidity. But nonetheless, the heretics would like to make people believe such a thing. Why? Because they like to distort the Torah. It pacifies them because they know eventually they will get their punishment. And who says so? Mishnah, chapter 4, 5th Mishnah, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan ben Brocha, says, whoever desecrates the name of heaven in secret, they will exact punishment for him in public. Whether unintentional or intentional, both are alike regarding Chilul Hashem. Here, one of the extraordinary sages tells you how it is, without sugarcoating. You desecrate the name of Hashem by minimizing his laws, minimizing his sages, minimizing his Torah, minimizing his greatness. You desecrated the name of heaven, you desecrated the name of God, even if you did it in secret. Not on the podcast, just between you and a few friends. Guess what? Ultimately, when a Kadosh Baruch Hu will punish you, he will make a public spectacle. Every one of these enemies of God will ultimately become a public spectacle. No less than the horror stories we've seen in the media over the last several years of major celebrities that everyone admired, like Cosby and Michael Jackson and other mitoavim, that everyone thought they were good until they realized that they are pedophiles, despicable creatures. But just like their sins were in private, silent, they silenced whoever saw. They could never silence God. When the punishment started, the beginning was publicizing their sins, publicizing their names, just like it's happening right now to some other people in the celebrity world. But all of these enemies of God, celebrity or not, when you desecrate the name of Hashem, there's simply nothing worse than that. That's what we saw from the blasphemer. The difference between the blasphemer thinking bad things versus saying bad things, everyone can understand. But when you say things in private versus say things in public, most people don't really understand the difference. But there is a big difference. When you said things in private between you and one other person, it's a world of difference versus you said it on a public platform for millions of people to watch. And to your misfortune, tens of thousands of people watch your heresy, watch your despicable words. And therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, eventually when the punishment will come, it will be a public punishment. What if a person says, no, but I didn't mean it? And therefore, Rabbi Yochanan says, unintentional or intentional, both are alike when it comes to the desecration of God's name. Whether you meant it or you didn't mean it, it's the same thing. The name of Hashem is so holy, there is no such thing as unintentional. All people that desecrate the name of God will be punished for it. How much? Gemara, Masechet Yoma, page 86, talks about different parts of tshuva and also certain sins that it's not enough to just simply say I'm sorry. It's not enough to wait for Yom Kippur. It's not enough to suffer for it. There's one sin you cannot even fix until you die, which is desecrating God's name. There's a lot of suffering. All of a sudden, your partner, your long-lost partner that you loved, that you guys were boys, decides he doesn't want to be your boy anymore. He wants your money instead. And all of a sudden, everything that's on his name, like your building, like your store, like everything, he says, you know what, from now on it's mine. Hey, but I thought we were boys. We're still boys. We can still get lunch together. I'm just not going to give you any more money. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, just like he moves the hearts of leaders, he moves the hearts of man if he wants. Just for you. You desecrated his name, the amount of punishment and suffering you're going to get is literally going to be endless, and that's just the beginning. By the way, when you find out that your wife is cheating on you, when you find out that your kids are addicted to drugs, when you find out all of these horrible things, don't be surprised. Why? That's just the beginning. It's all down payment. What? For what you did and what you're doing. But the worst part of it all is that you're denying it. You're justifying it, and you're forgetting that the ultimate judge, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's judging you. And his judgment is not superficial judgment. He's not judging you based on your clothes. He doesn't care about whether you like to learn Gemara or you like to learn Chumash. He just wants to make sure that you learn Torah. He doesn't care about which is your favorite mitzvah. He just wants to make sure that you keep all of them, whether you like them or you dislike them, understand them or don't understand. He doesn't care who your favorite rabbi is, as long as it's a legitimate rabbi and you listen to everything he says. He doesn't care if you lend money, but he does care if you actually charge interest. There's a whole lot of things that you can do, but there's a kosher way to do it. You choose to do things not kosher. You choose to redefine God's laws, and that's your problem. When you start mocking rabbis, real rabbis, Talmidei Chachamim, you're not just mocking the rabbi, you're mocking God, because God tells us, they are my representatives. When you mock them, when you categorize them in so many words, turn them into monsters in the eyes of whoever is listening to you, then what you're doing is you're mocking God and his entire system of Torah. And this is one of the mistakes that people have when they have these podcasts and they talk about all of the things they don't like about the Torah. And that's why Rabbi Yonai says in the Mishnah in Masechet Avot in chapter 4, Mishnah number 19, it's not in our power to explain either the tranquility of the wicked or the suffering of the righteous. You see, many people are going to look at you and they see, wow, look, this guy's wicked. He goes against the Torah. He goes against the Torah and God's not punishing it. Or you see a righteous person struggling to make ends meet. The sages teach us, don't try to explain it with your own rationale because you only know a small part of the picture. But you could be assured that just like God promised to punish the wicked, he will punish you. Just like he rewarded the righteous, he will reward the righteous. And if a person says, yeah, but I heard from Menace the Menace that I didn't ask to be born. Therefore, the Mishnah at the end of chapter 4 says the follows. For against your will you were created, and against your will you were born. Against your will you will live, and against your will you will die. And against your will you are destined to give an account before the King who rules over kings, the Holy One, blessed is he. You didn't ask to be born? Who cares? God decided you're gonna be here. Now you have to serve him. Why? Because you want to stay alive and you benefit from living. What does God really care about? We see that he cares about the blasphemer. So you say, listen, okay, I don't mean to blaspheme God. I'm not gonna curse. I'm not gonna this. I'm not gonna that. But come on, these other laws, maybe they're extreme. Really, God cares about my tattoo? Really, God cares about shatnez? Really, God cares about Brit? Well, apparently he does. And even though Rabbi Nachman in Breslov already wrote in Sichot Aran that when the time comes for the Mashiach to come, people will cry out about emunah, but the reality is that it will be a very difficult time for people, because most people will not know what emunah really is. They'll think that emunah is simply believing that a God is going to help you regardless of whether you follow him or not. And at that time, says Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, many people who call themselves religious leaders will preach lies. And he says righteous people that gather together and thirsting for the word of God will barely exist. There'll be some truly religious individuals, but they will be very few and far in between. You see, Rabotai, many people get confused because they have the wrong teachers. Many people get confused because they make themselves into a teacher. And they rationalize things that maybe this is not a big deal, and maybe this is not a big deal. This you could look at in the Gemara. This you could look at in the Midrash. This you could look at in the Zohar. This you could look at across the spectrum of the Torah. The many things that people think are not a big deal, and why does God care about this, care about that? You're forgetting he's the King of Kings, and he does not owe you an explanation, but you owe him one. So for all of those fools choose to change the Torah or reject the Torah and publicize their stupidity to the world, know this: you are currently enemies of God. And if you stay that way, the end of your Yakim will look pretty in comparison to your end, unless you do tshuva. And I know that many of you don't like to hear this, and perhaps even shut the lecture off in the middle before you came back to it because you really want to see what happens in the end. I highly recommend you do tshuva for the small stuff and the big stuff, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as we say every Wednesday, God is the God of vengeance. The God of vengeance is arrived. And yes, this is the scary. That's the intention, because it's the only thing that's going to get you to stop the foolishness that you've been publicizing for some time now. And since nobody else is going to do it, figured I'd take the liberty and help you out. only because I love you. Since you're a Jew, so long as you're in this world, I have a responsibility to help you. But as long as you be the way you are, as much as I love you, you're still my enemy. Once you change, you do tshuva, I love you no different than I love my own biological kids.
Covering your hair comes from the Torah, Parashat Naso. We learned from the Sotah that every Jewish woman that's married, and according to the Rambam, every Jewish woman, period, even at the age of 6 years old, must cover our hair. So covering your hair is one mitzvah. Second mitzvah is modesty. Now, throughout the last 2,000 years, the sages have been against wigs completely, even though it was very, very noticeable if a woman wore a wig, because the wigs of those days, 150 years ago, they looked more like the hair of a broom that we have today. I have some pictures of the wigs, and they really look worse than the stuff you clean the floor with. If you're a cleaning person in a building and you have this mop, the mop has these strings on it. The wigs of 150 years ago looks worse than that, because at least the mop is single color. But the wigs of 150 years ago look worse than that. Still, there was a big debate of whether even those wigs were allowed. Because of the machloket that started about 400 years ago, one of the Chachamim said that the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat that talks about wigs was saying that woman that doesn't has missing patches in her head, some type of illness or whatever happened, she could fill up the space by putting hair there. But the Gemara also says she would put a hat on top of it. But this Chacham 400 years ago said, yeah, but if it says that, maybe you're also referring that she could just wear the wig without the hat. And that's been a machloket for the last 400 years. Needless to say, 150 years ago, even though the wig looked worse than a mop, still there was a debate whether it's even allowed. So the Sdei Chemed says the following. He writes a question. Why does a plague come to the world? Plague, corona. The Sdei Chemed writes, Magefa, Rashi Tevot, each one of the letters, Mipnei Gilui Pe'at Anashim. Because of the wigs of the women. Plagues come to the world because of wigs, he says. So here you see, already 150 years ago, Chachamim, not only did they say that wigs are not good, but it could cause harm to the whole nation. Shulchan Aruch, in Orach Chaim 75:2 with Mishnah Berurah says that the covering of a woman's head has to be even inside the house, and it's forbidden for the man, including the husband, to recite the Shema Yisrael or other prayers in front of a woman, including his wife, if her hair is exposed. The Sdei Chemed understood the magnitude of a woman that covers her hair with a wig to such an extent that he said, listen, you that are wearing wigs could confuse certain people to think that it's real hair, and it create damage. It's not just damage for when you go outside, even inside. The Orach Chaim says that if you walk around with a wig, even your own husband cannot pray next to you. If this type of bomb doesn't affect you and make you think twice before you wear a wig, that means there's a little bit of a problem with your hashkafa. Regardless of who said it's okay, whether it's be the Lubavitch Rebbe Alav Shalom or a few other Chachamim that mention it's okay, regardless, you cannot just go and ignore the Sdei Chemed, the Gaon Mivilna, Arav Ovadia, and many other Gdolim that said it's 100% forbidden to such an extent that you can't even pray next to a woman who wears a wig. Askafa Yehudit is not just about doing whatever you want and finding the right rabbi to tell you what you want. It's so bad, it can bring a plague, meaning you can hurt other people. If you care about Am Yisrael, that's going to make you think twice. Not because you agree or disagree, but just because you have the right mindset. You say, wait a minute, you know what? My rabbi says it's okay, fine. But my rabbi is the same or less than Shulchan Aruch, than many others. He's not better than them. He's also a big rabbi, right? And they're saying, okay, no problem, do what you want, but I'm just letting you know what you're doing is going to bring up a magefa. A person that has the right mindset says, you know what? Even though I can technically do it because I'm listening to my Rav, but it's not worth it. It would still hurt other people. That shows you have Avat Yisrael. Now, if I was a woman that wants to get higher, I'm simply going to say, I got to reconsider whether I'm going to continue wearing a wig or not. But that's not enough. There is another issue that came to our attention over the last 4 or 5 years that we brought to light again because it was ignored 14 years ago when Rav Elyashiv brought it to everyone's attention.
יש היום הרבה שמקפידים עשו עסק שלם מהנושא שנקרא פאה. עצמי אצלו כל כך, הרבה יש כאלה היו.
הצרה של הפיוט, איך אפשר לתקן את זה? זה כבר מושרש, עם גדילים, מורפים, עסקה, עם הפיוט הזה, ממש פריצה ג'ינקום ואילו, והנה איך אתם יכולים להכיר את זה. זה התחיל מהגדולים, לא עכשיו למדנו, ראש ישיבות, צדיקים, כולם נחשבים בזה.
אני רוצה להגיד לרב,
מה אתם יכולים לעשות?
אני רוצה להגיד לרב דבר, כשבשעתו הרב אמר שיש בעיה שלו מלזרוע על הפירות, אף אחד לא האמין, לא הייתה כמעט אישה אחת שהלכה עם פאה.
שתצליחו.
Since wigs have become a multi-billion-dollar industry, that means that all of the criminals that care less about Torah are going to want to put their hands into this business. We're talking about a woman that even if she doesn't own a house, she'll spend $4,000 on a wig. Women tell me, oh, here's okay, I'm going to put mitpachar on. What should I do with my wigs? I said, burn them. What do you mean burn them? It's $15,000. Got 3-4 wigs, got $15,000 worth of wigs. I said, how many houses do you own? She goes, I don't even own a house, I rent. How do you allow yourself to spend $15,000 on wigs? Because what do you mean? I wore it every day. Simply no yetzer tov when it comes to wigs, just yetzer hara. So now, why do people burn it? You see some of my videos on my channel with women, tzadikot, burning their wigs. Why? Because we discovered that since it's become such a big business, the only place in the world that could supply the market, a multi-billion-dollar market, with an unlimited supply of wigs is India. Even though there is some hair that comes from different countries randomly, it's not even 1% of the market. 99% of the hair that's actually in wigs today comes from India.
Tirupati Tirumala Temple in southern India, the most visited place in the world. 40 to 50 million pilgrims visit every year. It is also one of the largest collectors of human hair in the world, 500 tons a year. Most of the virgin hair weaves and wigs worn in Africa and the world originate here. It is considered a virtue for Indian women to have long hair, a sign of great beauty. So why are they giving it up? Sacrificing hair to the gods is thought to bring good luck.
This market is gigantic, beyond comprehension. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars of turnover yearly in this extension field.
The demand is always there, and it's always growing.
Are you comfortable that the women themselves aren't being exploited because they do have something of value? Should they be compensated for the fact that they're giving something that ends up...
They wouldn't want money. They wouldn't want money categorically.
Do you know that?
The women who give their hair up at the temple as a form of sacrifice, if it were a money question, actually give that hair to the people going around the villages.
Each year his company turns over $150 million, but his market share is only about 4% of the global trade.
The house the hair built, yes. I guess you can say the house the hair built. Yeah.
Why do you put on Indian human hair? Can I ask? You know how we get that hair? When nothing goes right in the life of a Hindu person, they go through a ceremony called Tantra, where the priest in the temple incantates all the bad luck they are facing onto the hair, because for them to cut hair is such a taboo, so that it indicates a new phase of metamorphosis. They shave their hair clean. They used to burn that hair because they understood they're burning all the bad luck, until they realized the stupid African women wants to put it on their head. So you buy your own bad luck and you put it on your head.
Why India? Because India has over 80,000 cults and religions. One of the common things that they have over there is they have temples, where the people travel to those temples from all over the country and all over the world, actually. 30 million people travel to these temples every single year from all around the world to donate their hair to the idol, because that's their mitzvah. That's their idolatry. That's their sacrifice to the idol. They donate their hair because their idol spent a lot of money on a wedding and he took a loan from the gods. And the only way you can return it is if you donate your hair to him and he can sell it. Or another one has a different idol that he had a rock fall on his head and gave him a bald spot. So since then, people donate their hair to this fake god. That's their religion. Every woman that wears a wig from real hair, there's a 99.9% chance that your hair was a sacrifice to an idol. Which means the Torah says you're not allowed to sell it, you're not allowed to wear it, You're not even allowed to enjoy it in any way. The only mitzvah you have with something that came from idolatry is to destroy it. Which means that there are many Bnot Israel that overall righteous. Keep Shabbat, Tarat Mishpacha, Modesty, good women, everything. Even the wig is short, but the wig is real hair. She has idol worship on her head. And she doesn't understand why she has so many tzarot in her life. The kids, the husband, and this and that. She doesn't realize she's bringing it on herself. Now, unfortunately, you're going to have the vast majority of rabbis say exactly the opposite of what I just said. What's the difference? I did the research, they did it. We have a paper of over 200 pages verifying every single thing I said. We have people that live in India right now, Hindus, tell you everything that I just said is an understatement. I'm complimenting it. It's much worse than what I say. Sometimes, unfortunately, the yetzer is very strong. On the other hand, if you put a wig on, you are covering your head though. You are fulfilling a mitzvah. But what's the price of this mitzvah? Benefiting from idol worship. If it's real hair, wig. So if anyone wants a leniency because they're like addicted to wigs, I will never tell you it's allowed. But if there was a choice between a wig from real hair and a synthetic wig, the synthetic wig is of lesser evil. Synthetic wigs, it also has idolatry in it, but nonetheless, sometimes it doesn't. Point being, it would still not be allowed, but nonetheless, it's much less worse, if you will, than the real hair wigs. The real hair wigs, it's virtually impossible to get a real hair wig that is kosher, even if it has a kosher stamp on it. What's one of the best signs that any smart Jew could know for sure that the entire kosher industry of wigs is one big fraud, multi-billion-dollar industry? We're talking about millions of wigs. How many kosher bodies supervise the entire kosher industry? One company run by a guy named Rabbi Gross is the supervisor of the entire wig industry. There is nobody else. Now, if that's not fishy to you, if that makes sense to you, that there's one kosher company that's not even the size of your local deli, they could supervise the entire industry. That sounds normal. That sounds kosher to you. There's something not kosher about it. You're missing a few brain cells. This alone shows there's something unkosher about the kosher industry in the wig industry. Why doesn't anybody else want to jump in? So much money in it. You could go in there right now. Right now there's a monopoly. You go in, you have no competition. What, you have one guy. You have half the industry within a year. Who's he going to compete with? Half the industry within a year. You make millions of dollars. You're printing money. How come nobody goes into it? Because anyone with 1 ounce of Yirat Shamayim runs away from that industry like it's the plague, like it's the Malach HaMavet himself. Why? Because there's no way to kosher it. No way. Because you know it came from India. You know you cannot follow the hair from the time it was taken off the head until the time it's put on the head. That means that even if you saw that one of the people didn't donate it to the idol, she sold it in Russia, she sold it in Bangladesh, she sold it in Gehinnom, she sold it somewhere else, no problem. That woman's hair is not going to be a wig. It's going to be part of a wig. Average wig is 3 different women's heads. The hair of a wig is not like the hair of a regular person. Everything is even. Everything is perfect. No woman in the world has even hair. You have split ends. You have hair like this, hair like this, hair like this, all types of things. The wig, everything's perfect all the time. Why? Because they make it that way. Manufacturing. They put all the hair in one giant place and they mix it all up. You get it in blonde, you get it in blue, red, green, burgundy. You can have anything you want. So this, Rabotai, is the truth about wigs. So that means that even if you're fulfilling the mitzvah of covering your head better than what you did with the hat, the cost of it is benefiting out of idolatry. Much, much worse. So that means that you have to overcome the obstacle, the yetzer, put a snoot on, put a mitpachat on, put a hat on, but just put all your hair in it. And be proud to be a Jew, for heaven's sake. Why? Do you want the Mashiach to show up and you have your hat on with your hair coming out? Oh, no, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean Mashiach. Let me put my hair back. What do you think, it's going to help you? Mashiach shows up, she's going to put her hair back in there. It's too late. If you didn't do tshuva before Mashiach comes, nothing's going to help you. If you're not covering your hair right now, you're not modest right now, start ASAP. Whether you want to, you don't want to, doesn't make a difference. Why? It's for you. Only one that benefits out of it is you. Don't make a Kadosh Baruch Hu wait for you to do tshuva for 3,000 years. And he cannot save you. Why? Because you don't want to put a mitpachat. Because you don't want to watch your eyes. Because you don't want to keep Shabbat. He's waiting for you for 3,000 years. For heaven's sake, have some mercy on him. More panasa, more miracles, more refuah shlema, more kids, more wife, more good times. Don't make him wait for 3,000 years and you still didn't do tshuva. Still want to eat the burger. He's waiting for you. Do it already. What joy are you going to get out of it? You're going to be miserable anyway. Without HaShem, you cannot be happy. It's impossible to be happy without a Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Sages say in the Gemara Masechet Sotah, page 49b, that at the end of days, there's going to be certain things that are going to be the opposite of what the tradition has been, the opposite of what we have known to be true, where in fact the truth will be hated and heresy will be rampant.
Rabbi Yaron Reuven, when you're wrong, you're wrong.
Say all kinds of stupid things, as this Yaron Reuven has been doing.
I would say rabbis, but it's kind of hard to say rabbis. I would say gentlemen, but they're certainly not gentlemen.
Rabbi Yaron, speak in such a way. And my question to you, is this the people you really want to follow?
So Rabbi Reuven, we're here ready for the dialogue whenever you're ready.
For him, everyone but him is a heretic.
Come on, Yaron. We know how the conversion business is all about and how it works.
What's the big difference between Christianity and Judaism? It's absolutely nothing.
So we should all worship Jesus, is what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And that's actually, unfortunately, one of the things that we are seeing. Many people pretending to be leaders, pretending to be rabbis, are misleading the public with many different things.
For a Jew, Shituf is idolatry. If a Jew were to convert to Christianity, that Jew would be practicing idolatry.
I want to thank Rabbi Goldberg and the synagogue for your incredible hospitality in co-hosting tonight's event.
The Rambam's analysis is Christianity is full-fledged idolatry, fraternization, transactions, business, distancing ourselves.
Israel is number 3 priority for evangelicals. We are here today to build a wall of protection for the Christian-Israel alliance.
Distancing ourselves.
Tonight we are uniting together that we will stand for Israel, that Israel lives now and forever.
And we have an obligation to engage them, not entertain them, but genuinely engage them. Genuinely show them, demonstrate to them that Christianity is the best way to live.
What is the halachic conclusion for the Rambam? One must concede their life before worshiping an idol.
The 770 Chabad Center, the headquarters of Chabad, and asks a bunch of different people if they believe that God needs you.
Does God need your mitzvahs?
Yes. I'll say yes because I know who you are.
HaShem need your mitzvahs? 100%. 100% in his essence? Does God need your mitzvahs?
Yes, of course.
You're
God needs my mitzvahs.
What?
He definitely wants my mitzvahs.
He wants it, but does he need that now?
It seems so.
Chabad Rabbi, right here in Brooklyn. Does God need your mitzvahs?
Of course. What kind of question is that?
I'm with you. Does God need your mitzvahs? Of course. It's a hot topic in Chabad.
Hashem is sustained by our sacrifices.
Hey, that's right. Of course. Does Hashem need your mitzvahs? Of course. He does? But he's perfect.
This is 100% apikosut.
The reason we go to hell when we die is because we want to be with our friends.
The burning in hell is the embarrassment that a soul feels when it doesn't know how to be a soul anymore. Why is homosexuality an abomination? It's not. It's not.
There's no eternal damnation. Hell is a process. So Hitler, for example, is not in hell. If he was there, everybody else would leave. So even going to hell is a blessing. It means there's hope.
Apikosut, this is heresy. You will never find a source in the Torah that says such a statement. So to have so many people say such a thing, of course this can create even more confusion. But of course, we always have our beautiful Torah to delve into because everything is in it. Here, Torah itself comes and says to you, this is the decree of the Torah, meaning all of the mitzvot are not needed by God. All of the mitzvot are things you will never understand while you are alive, because that's how God created you. The long-standing battle against the heretics that unfortunately are infecting more and more people that are connected to their teachers, that are trying to reinterpret the Torah, that are trying to reinvent the Torah without having any sources, without having any foundation whatsoever, by simply word playing, by simply saying, listen, it makes sense that since he told us to do it, he must need it. Why? Because I won't do anything unless I need to do it. And in so many words, they're minimizing God and humanizing him, where they're trying to say we're in the same field. I only do things because I need to do them. I only tell somebody to do something because I need them to do it. Therefore, God must be the same as me. He only says to us to do the mitzvot because he needs it. Why would he create the world if he doesn't need the world? person has to know that David HaMelech cried about lies literally more than anything else. He hated lies. Was David HaMelech racist? No. Was David HaMelech sexist? No. Was David HaMelech one of these rainbow people that give themselves an acronym that you can't even see or else they shut you down? No. David HaMelech was a man of truth, man of holiness. 22 times in Tehillim, David HaMelech cries about lies. The word sheker appears in Tehillim 22 times. David HaMelech was literally sick of lies, sick of them, because lies are like a poison if you want connection to God. If you're chasing ratings, you're a liar. If you're chasing popularity, you're a liar. If you're chasing anything but the truth, you're a liar. The best you can do, go into a cave like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, work on yourself, and when you're able to only speak the truth, come out. Because otherwise, whatever you teach, whatever you do, will die with you. If you want it, what you do, your work, your influence, your teachings, your wisdom, your life, to survive the test of time, it must be true. Because if it's a lie, it will die. And you're gonna say, yeah, but there's some lies like Christianity and Islam and all these other things that survive the test of time. But if you want anything to be known as true, as part of the Holy Torah, it must be true from beginning to end. Ecclesiastes chapter 6 verse 7 says, all man's toil is for his mouth, yet the soul is never satisfied. The beginning of this verse may be interpreted to mean all that a man's accumulated over his lifetime in terms of mitzvot and good deeds is insufficient remuneration for the breath that leaves the man's mouth. In so many words, the sages say clearly, all of the Shabbat that you keep, all of the tefillin that you put on, all of the mikveh that you go to, all of the Torah that you learn, all of the kosher food that you eat, all of the tzedakah that you give, all of what you do is not enough to even pay for a single breath that you breathe, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you. This is not to say that your mitzvahs are worthless. Certainly they're worth something for you to get a reward in heaven, for you to have a good life, for you to earn your right to exist in this world. But it's certainly not enough to justify a single breath that he gave you before you did any of it, and a single breath that you did even after you did all of it, because all of it is for your benefit, not for him. Even the soul's extraction does not fill the hole. First we learn that the soul is never satisfied. Why? Because all the toil that a person does in this world, all the mitzvot, all the chesed, everything, the soul says, listen, it's still not enough to justify my existence, do more, do more. Why? I don't know when God's going to take it back. I'm still in debt. The rest of the verse, Shlomo HaMelech says, how is the extraction of the soul from the body at death? Rabbi Brachya and Rabbi Kartifa say in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, like ropes that exit a round hole. Shmuel says, like a thorn, moist and reversed, that exits from a round hole. In so many words, the chibut kever, when the soul leaves the body, it's painful. So to sum it all up, we understand all the mitzvot that we do are for us. Everything we do is for us. God doesn't benefit a single thing from us. In fact, if we don't do good, our end begins with pain. When God runs the world, you don't have to worry about anybody giving you anything. You have to worry about you giving to people the truth that they deserve. Truth that's free from the Torah. Be'ezrat Hashem, you too will live the truth, say the truth, share the truth, and run away from lies.
ראש הארגון, הרב ירון בן דוריס, יהי רצון שבכל אשר לפני ישכיל ויצליח ויעלה מעלה.
אני מברך את הרבנים, הרב ירון ראובן, אשר ארגון בעזרת השם, ברכה והצלחה.
שמחתי מאוד לשמוע על הארגון בעזרת השם, שמארגן תורה כדי לזכות את עם ישראל.
בעזרת השם זה מיזם עצום, מיזם גדול, חשוב מאוד שכל בני תורה ייקחו את המיזם הזה וישתמשו בו.
אני רוצה לברך את הארגון הקדוש הזה בעזרת השם, שיהיה השם בעזרם ויסבטל מעל כל עמו ישראל כל גזרות קשות ורעות.
תבוא הישועה והגאולה בעגלה ובזמן קריב בעזרת השם, על ידי הארגון בעזרת השם.
כן, כפי שאני מכיר את הרב ירון ראובן, השם ישמרו ויחייהו.
אני מבקש להודות לרב ירון ראובן.
אני רוצה לבוא בברכה ובהמלצה חמה למפעל הקדוש והגדול הנקרא בעזרת השם.
אני מברך את הרב ירון ראובן.
רציתי לברך את כל התומכים בארגון בעזרת השם ברשות הרב ירון ראובן.
אני רוצה להביע את הוקרתי, הערכתי לארגון בעזרת השם ולרב ירון ראובן.
אנחנו רוצים לקראת ראש השנה החדשה לברך את ידידנו רב ירון ראובן. רציתי לברך את הארגון סעדת דשמיא של הרב אפרים, של הרב ירון, שממש הם מקדשים של שמיים ברבים, מפיצים את התורה בכל מקום שבעולם.
A very dear speaker, Rabbi Yaron Reuven, giving us some words of encouragement. He is, Baruch Hashem, on the way up.
ארגון חשוב מאוד, שנקרא בעזרת השם, ברשות הרב ירון ראובן, שליטה, שם ישמרו ויחייהו.
אדם יקר ונכבד, הרב ירון ראובן, שהשם ישמור אותו.
הרב ירון ראובן, אתה מאפשר להם, אתה מאמין בעמלי תורה. אתם עמלי התורה, תמשיכו, תהיו אור גדול.
Anything that would describe Rabbi Yaron Reuven is that he's been there and done that. And that makes him an incredibly compelling speaker.
I had the privilege of getting a blessing from both Rabbi Ephraim and Rabbi Reuven for the upcoming year. For each request, I have seen protection from the Almighty and blessing for my family, whether it be my mother's cancer going into remission, us opening up a new location, my wife's pregnancy being easy and delivering healthy babies.
This is really when I discovered Rav Yaron Reuven, and Baruch Hashem, I was successful in many ways, and there was a lot of challenges along the way because I went to the Kotel. I was single for many years, and I prayed, Hashem, give me a wife. And 2 weeks later, I met my wife in synagogue on Shabbat, and we were married 3 months after we met. So that was my first miracle that I witnessed, and there was many more later on. And when this happened, I decided to become more Shomer Shabbat. I decided to become Shomer Mitzvot, and I really put this into my mind that this is what I wanted to do.
Just like any project in our house, we're looking for an expert. The business of saving souls requires an expert as well. In my opinion, HaDor, Rav Yaron Reuven, is one of those experts. Organization, BeEzrat Hashem, that he created is definitely one of a kind. If we actually think about it, Rav probably said it numerous times. He didn't quit the business. He just found the only stock that's worth investing in. The best part about it, guys, it's the only stock that interests HaKadosh Baruch Hu. BeEzrat Hashem organization has only one mission, to save as many souls as possible.
I just want to say thank you so much to the BeEzrat Hashem films team for all the hard work you guys do. Please keep doing what you're doing.
Olam Rav Reuven, thank you very much for helping me out, helping me in my teshuvah.
Thank you, Rabbi, for giving us the opportunity of participating in this amazing Heretic organization.
I want to say thank you to Rav Yaron Reuven for changing the lives of so many people.
Rabbi Yaron Reuven is straightforward with truth. This lightning bolt hits you. He's not going to hold back.
Thank you very much for all you have done in Kyiv, in Costa Rica, and around the world.
I want to give a big thank you to Rav Reuven for helping me do teshuvah.
Hello, Rabbi Reuven. I want to say thank you so much for inspiring me. If it wasn't for you, I don't think me, neither my family, would become religious.
You were like one of the only few people who would actually go out of their way to help somebody to finish their conversion.
What do you think would happen if you wouldn't have found Rabbi Reuven's likeness?
I would say he's been my mentor. He was the reason that pushed me to change my life.
How did you discover Rabbi Reuven or the organization?
I met Rabbi Reuven, I believe it was also on YouTube, and I was inspired by his story. Most of the questions I had, he already answered them for me.
When I started crying, I think that was what Rabbi Yaron said that sparked me to start crying out to HaShem.
I learned a lot from Rabbi Yaron Reuven. He really inspired me. He really taught me a lot from his videos, watching his videos.
I'm glad I met both of you brothers. I thank you very much for the free stuff. The outreach has touched my neshama. More Jews should stop at this site and give tzedakah. Oh, mine. You guys, the sisters, and the books you give out, I really appreciate it.
I'd like to thank the HaShem organization for all the stuff and for everything they do.
Such a beautiful way, unprecedented way, just purely to spread Hashem's Haba, Hashem's name, Hashem's Torah. Shema Yisrael.
That's good.
You guys are doing very good work here, bringing forth Am Yisrael, the Jewish people. You empower them and you strengthen them.
Thank you, BeEzrat Hashem.
I want to express my sincere gratitude to the HaShem organization. Put the filling on me, with free books,
Thank you, BeEzrat Hashem, for the kippah and the book. Giving me a lot of class for Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
I'd like to thank the BeEzrat Hashem's organization for the piece of poem they given me. I've already read one of them, the Halachos of Kibbutz Avayim.
I'd like to thank the BeEzrat Hashem team for giving away these free books. It's been life-changing, especially getting this Speaking of It.
I really appreciate all the stuff that I was given by these two gentlemen here who are Be'emet, bringing people closer to Judaism. This is the biggest righteous deed a Jew can do.
This book that I received in Aventura Chabad is one of the best books I ever read, and I recommend it to everybody who wants some knowledge in the Torah to get this book.
Tishivach Awadena B'Shimpan Tzakdet B'Sheva Davi Yishtrama. Give up public to all the great people that help us run this organization, help us by donating their time, donating their resources, their money, their abilities, to help us help Am Yisrael get close to our. We're here at the Kotel, praying for all of our donors, praying for all of our partners, praying for all of our students, all of our friends, all of the people that support our efforts to get Am Yisrael closer to HaKadosh. We appreciate all your help, and we simply want to make sure that you understand, you know that, praying for you, and we're looking to do a lot more together, BeEzrat Hashem. Thank you very much for everything. Both Olam, Rabbi.